All right. All right. StreamYard seems to have fixed that glitch. April Watson was first in the chat. That's right. And we got Nick Felden from Denver. We got Zakari wishing me a happy birthday. Thank you so much, because today is my birthday. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but here with you on my birthday, talking about what I love to talk about the most, Prince. And so we are excited to be here. Playing one of my favorite Eric Lee's tracks on my birthday. Happy birthday! Thank you so much, dear. Yeah. Now, thank you so much, Edgar. Really appreciate you helping me out this week and IDing that photo. Really, really appreciate all that you do. Thank you so much, D68. Hey, I've been listening to that sound check all morning, and it's hilarious. So thank you so much for posting that. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Thank you so much, AJJ132.
Can you pause that music for 1 second?
Sure.
Now, it's a traditional thing in the culture. Somebody's birthday. Somebody got to do the Stevie.
Yes.
Real quick. Come on now. If we can get everybody around the goddamn world who's on this thing right now. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to ya. There we go. Yeah, we making it sense.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
We ain't trying to get disrespectful on that.
Hey, that's Martin Luther King part. That's how we still trying to get the holiday in. We still trying to get the holiday.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody in the chat that's wishing me a very happy birthday. Means so much to me. And I always got to give a shout out to Mooches, because I get to see Vanity every Saturday, which I absolutely love. The avatar. We got Baron B. And we got, if I can find the button in time. Oh, push the wrong button. Look at me. I'm just doing it. There you go. Thank you. All right. I messed everything up. Hold on. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, I'm sure some people see a new face with us today, and we are extremely, extremely excited to have a very special guest, none other than JD Washington. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Welcome.
Dropping the knowledge in the chat, now dropping the knowledge on the screen. Brother JD Washington.
That's right. But before we get into it with JD, we got to do our housekeeping, and then we got to also make sure that we put everybody who wishes me a happy birthday on the screen, because I'm not saying your names, but just for the sake of time, we're going to go. Hopefully, we'll see how we do this week. But Real Line to DJ, thank you so much. Ooh, let's see. What is your avatar this week? I can't tell. It's so small. Is that I Would Die For You? I can't. Who knows that 12-inch by heart by looking at it?
Like a 45.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the 45.
Oh yeah, it's a 45. You're right. And I'm so excited that JD is here that I'm just like messing up just basic information, like a 12-inch versus a 45. Thank you so much, Audria, and welcome, JD. That's right.
That's a sweet picture that Audria has.
Yeah. Yes. And I think this was from, it had to have been from Celebration from this year. It looks like it. Only because the reason why is I just bought that sweater. That's the only reason why I know. And let's see what Purple Cat Confetti saying. I'm taking you guys with me on the road out of time to do sister time. That's what I'm talking about, Purple Cat Confetti. Taking us on the road and spending time with your family, which we all should do.
Because we are family.
Dang it.
That's right. Okay, so thank you, Real Lana DJ. So 17 days on 45. That's what I'm talking about. Michael Dean, do you remember last week when you were talking about people in their purple cards? So like we just lost our purple card by not knowing what 45 it was from the little.
I'm negative on mine already.
That's right.
I'm in a deficit.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we got hooray, JD Washington in the house and on the screen and with the funky background. Love it.
Yeah, you kind of got that Sign of the Times inside sleeve vibe going on there a little bit, JD.
Yeah.
That's just those are the shades that my wife bought for the house, and she's not a huge Prince fan.
It kind of looks like a chain link fence or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love it. It gives you an aura. It gives you a glow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm getting Arkham Asylum psych ward. Let me leave JD alone.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you so much, Chipper and Sparrow. Really appreciate all that you do, like helping us out on the socials, because you know how like poor I am at social media. That's not my bag. But I am here with you. All right, let's get through the housekeeping so we can get our conversation started with JD. I'm so excited to have JD here. I've been wanting to have JD on all of last year, actually. So this is a very long time coming that I finally get to have a conversation with JD, and I appreciate him so much. So week 47 of What Did Prince Do This Week? For any new listeners, this is a very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book series. And when we say a very slow read, we are taking 2 years, count them, 2 years to read one book. But if you see how long that book is, you'll understand. Through an interactive weekly online book club and Saturday Salon. If you don't know what a Saturday Salon is, Google Harlem Renaissance and Salon, and maybe you will figure it out. And we are going week to week, not date to date. And hopefully you'll figure that out one day. And you can follow the detailed schedule at the QR code and the bit.ly link. And you do not need the expanded edition. But this is what we read. That's right, JD. And you got to have the blue type. And remember, I've been saying like this is how much we have left in the book. Technically, that's incorrect because all of the notes that Duane provides us, this is all that we have to read for the remaining of the year.
We just got December
that right now.
Just December. That's all we got is December.
All we got is December after this week. So this is very exciting because we're counting down for multiple things. One, to our 100th episode, which I'm very excited about, which will be in two more sessions. But we will finally be finished with this book. And the whole reason why we're reading this book is so that we can get to
the Rick James story.
No. Oh my God. Can you imagine? Oh my God. I actually read a quote from a Rick James book this week. I have to find it. I was like, really? And it reminds me that I should not read any Rick James book, basically. So let me see if I can find it real quick.
Rick gave it a tap in a book.
I don't know. It was like too much of a book. Let's see if I can find it real quick.
Can you imagine Prince whooping me? Little old Prince whooping me. I'm saying, Harlem Renaissance.
All right, here we go. So this is from Rick James's autobiography, The Confessions of Rick James, Memoirs of a Super Freak.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is Rick James. Here's this little dude wearing high heels, playing this new wave rock and roll, not moving or anything on stage. I don't believe that. Just standing there wearing this trench coat. Then at the end of his set, he'd take off his trench coat and he'd be wearing little girls' bloomers. I just died. The guys in the audience just booed the poor thing to death. That's Rick James's comment.
The early years.
That's Rick James' version. Because we know his version is a little cloudy. We ain't going to say why.
Yes.
Imagine if they had social media back then, boy.
There you go.
Oh, my God. Every shot's fired. For sure. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm not reading the autobiography of Rick James after that little clip I just got. All right. And these will be archived on YouTube at Polished Solid as well as at MDean. Please subscribe, like, and help spread the word, because we're trying to spread the word about how much Prince worked every week. And I just hope that you'll help us. And our hashtag is WDPDTW for What Did Prince Do This Week? All right. Now, we're still wanting more people to join us. So if you saw the Purple Rain tour, we want you. And if you don't want to come on, if you have photos you want to share with us that we can share, we love to have that too. But if you want to come on, just email wdpdtw@gmail.com. And next week, we're going to be talking more about the Landover, Maryland, DC show. So if you want to come on and you couldn't come on this week, you can come on next week. So just remember that. Thank you so much, Andre Staley. Our first guest, our first Purple Rain Tour guest. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And we got to say hello to the peoples. Oh my God, I didn't even know about this one. So LTK is saying that Rick James said, I don't ever even remember Prince being on tour with me. Yes, I recall Prince coming out on tour with us. Oh my God, Rick James, you gotta love him.
That says it all.
Yes, yes. And Sly Stone's memoir book on Audible, Spotify yesterday. Cool, awesome. Thank you so much, Tanja.
I almost said I listened to it on edibles. I was like, I know that was great.
So we were playing Lines at the beginning, which is one of my favorite Eric Lee songs, the first song off of Times Square, Paisley Park Records, 1991, co-written by Matt Bliston. All right, so again, week 47, episode number 98. This week, Prince did 6 live shows. Those 6 live shows were in Landover, Maryland, also known as, would this be considered, JD, the DMV? I'm getting used to that lingo. Like, all my kids call it at school, they call it the DMV. And I thought they were talking about driver's license and things.
Yeah.
So, and then let's see, we have 3 shows at the Spectrum in Philly. And that's my calendar on top. And then this was the official calendar on paper bottom.
Tanja said, no, don't disrespect my read.
No.
Maryland.
I just said it's Maryland. Oh, got it. All right. Okay. So just really quickly, I just want us to look at this official, this is old school. This is how they rolled back in 1984, these typed pages for the itinerary. And you can see that this is actually for later in the week. I really should be showing this next week. So we'll talk about that next week. But what you should see is actually the hotel they stayed at in DC was the Hyatt on 400 New Jersey Avenue. And then in Philly, they stayed at the Four Seasons on Logan Square. So that was the hotel situation for the tour. And before we get into our articles, we are, again, very excited to have JD Washington with us. So before we get started with your experience, just talk to us about how you got into Prince, first of all, and let us know what was your first tour, your first Prince tour.
Sure. Okay. So, I think the first time I really was getting into him was the Prince album. It was "I Want to Be Your Lover." I had heard that song, but you know, when you buy the album, "Sexy Dancer" was the one that kind of drew me. And a little background. So, I grew up overseas. My father was in the Air Force, and when you live overseas, you're like starved for anything American, right? Music. And so I would say starting at 13 or 14, I started buying any album I can get my hands on, right? And so I tended to gravitate towards the funk bands. I'm a huge Slave fan. I love Slave.
I'm a huge Slave fan. Slave is my favorite funk band by far.
Oh, they're very underrated, underappreciated. But yeah, so I love that, and I think that what I loved about them was the instruments, right? The music they were awesome. I mean, they were just very, very put together. Maybe not so much on stage, but on record certainly. And so, that first Prince album or the second Prince album, those two songs, there's a lot of music going on in there where there's not much singing, right? He played, there's like extended jams within the song. And so I kind of just gravitated towards, I think it was Sexy Dancer was probably the first one that I really liked. And from then on, I started to really buy pretty much anything he put out at that point. But as far as the first tour, the first one I saw him was Dirty Mind.
Nice.
And there's actually a funny story because it plays out through my life. So he was coming. I think I was 15 or 16, and he was coming to play at a club called Emerald City in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. I mean, it couldn't get more suburban than that, right? And I wanted to go, and I knew I wasn't of drinking age, so my father said, "Hey, let's see if I can get you in." And so we went down there, and he was able to convince the bouncer or the doorman to let me in, as long as he stayed there and reassured that I was not going to be drinking. Because I think the drinking age in New Jersey at that time was like 18 or 19. So anyway, so I was able to get in to see the Dirty Mind concert, and I think I mentioned last week, Nona Hendrix opened for him. So she was like fronting a group. I don't remember the group's name, but she was like fronting a group, and it was very much of a punk vibe. And then Prince came on, and it was interesting because my father was with me, and at that time the shows were probably not as structured as they were later on, and this was in the underwear phase.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I mean my father, like I said, he was in the military. He's pretty old school, and I heard about the underwear for the next 30 years.
I had his towels on up there.
yeah. So yeah, I heard about that for the next 30 years. But it was interesting because one of the things that came out of that, for me at least, was that in that show he played "Gotta Stop Messing About," and it wasn't on an album. And I was like, wow, what is that song? And there was another song he played as well I had never heard of. It was like Everybody Dance or something. So anyway, after I heard those, I went to go looking for them, and I found "Gotta Stop." I forgot what is the B-side on, but I found that, and that kind of started my whole quest of buying B-sides as well. So that was the first time.
Wow.
Yep, Zero Cool. That's it. I don't know who that person is who posted that, but but yeah. So that was the first time I saw him was Dirty Mind in this small club that my father kind of snuck me into.
That is incredible. So I'm hearing doubles. C Liegh, do you mind? I don't know if it's you or curious. Let's see. Okay. How did your father actually respond to the music of the concert? I mean, I know he responded to what Prince was wearing.
Yes. Yeah. So growing up, my father, he had a lot of music as well. And that probably kind of started me on my path, right? He listened, he was a generation before, obviously. So, he was listening mostly to like Al Green, Marvin Gaye, the Motown groups, Smokey Robinson, Barry White. That's primarily what he listened to. But the one crossover between he and I was the Commodores, right? Because the Commodores at that time, it wasn't just Lionel Richie singing these love ballads that sound semi-country. They were kind of a funk band, right? I mean, Fancy Dancer, Machine Gun, and their instrumentation, High on Sunshine. I mean, you listen to that music, it's like incredible. And so that's kind of the point of intersection between my father and I. And actually the second concert that I ever went to, it was in Japan, actually, was the Commodores. And so my father and I had gone to that show back in, gosh, it must have been 77, 70, somewhere around 77, 78 timeframe. And so that was kind of the intersection. So when you saw Prince during the concert, I mean, forget the histrionics of what's going on stage. He admitted the guy was very talented, right? But he didn't, the Dirty Mind was kind of had a punk vibe to it, right? And so my father wasn't feeling the rock
shenanigans.
Yeah.
A question for you, JD, and I love that sort of very generational music story in the sense of you and your dad, but now where you are in life. I'm curious, are there any groups or artists that your children are into that you were kind of introduced through them, and you know, do you have
So
any similar thoughts?
well, so it hasn't gone the other way where I listen to their music.
Okay.
Right, because I mean, a lot of it's rap that I don't understand, and I realize, okay, I'm too old for that probably. But interestingly, my oldest, who grew up playing piano and bass, loved Prince. I mean, loved Prince, uh, loved Rick James actually.
Okay.
Right, so he loved all these old Parliament Funkadelic, Bootsy Collins. So he loves all that old school, what I would call old school. And a funny story, or it's kind of sad, but you know, when Prince passed, I had been on the road in Asia for 2 weeks, and so he passed like on my last day in Singapore. I was just going to fly back the next morning,
Mm.
and you know, I knew I had a long flight, so I tried to get to sleep early, and this is the day he passed. All of a sudden my phone is like blowing up, like texts and calls, and I'm like trying to sleep. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, like, you know, what is going on? And after a while I realized, okay, maybe there's something going on at home I need to address. And I look at my texts, and all these people, many I haven't even seen or heard in, you know, maybe a year or plus, are like, oh, I'm so sorry, and yeah, you know, he was great. I'm like, what are they talking about? I had no idea. So then I turned on the TV, and on CNN, you know, they showed you Paisley Park, right? And so obviously, once you turn that on, I mean, I couldn't go back to sleep. And needless to say, that made a very long flight back, even longer, right? Because it's, you know, you're kind of bummed out. But interestingly, when I got back, you know, he was surprised that I wasn't grieving as much as he had expected, knowing how fanatical I was. And, you know, I'm trying to explain to him, hey, you know what? On that, you know, 17, 18-hour trip back, I mean, that's all I did was listen to Prince. So I told him, and but no, my oldest, definitely Prince, Rick James, um, those Stevie Wonder. Right? He listens to most of that, and I don't really know what new music he listens to, because usually when I hear him playing something, it's usually what I'll call my bands, right?
So when you were on the plane, do you remember like what was the first Prince album or song you played? Or if you don't remember that, like what were you playing on that plane ride back?
Well, you know, so it's just, you know, it's like an 18-hour flight, you know, because you have to fly, you know, from Singapore to Tokyo is probably like 8 hours, and then it's another 12 hours from Tokyo to LA. So needless to say, it's a long trip. I think I started actually with Emancipation, because I knew that was 3 discs, that I didn't have to touch anything, and I could just let it start. And you know, I thought, hey, you know, I could start listening to it, and I'd probably fall asleep listening to it. But needless to say, I couldn't fall asleep after hearing the news. You know, it was pretty difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I probably went through half of his discography on the flight. Again, it's a long trip, so
Yeah, for sure. So
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
One thing that I think is awesome, and if you can speak to this, and I've known JD for a number of years. Matter of fact, I think the first time we met, he actually came to Seattle. You were here for a football game.
yeah, I was here for the Lions.
Yeah, okay. and we met up real quick, and he had Jesse Johnson, Bear My Neck.
Verbal penetration.
Was it verbal? Okay, verbal penetration. I had a copy of that for me. Blessed me. But he also has blessed me with the Sign of the Times box set of the movie, which I herald, you know, Blu-ray. But man, talk to us about Tower Records out there, that experience. And I've seen pictures where they have all this Prince stuff, and I mean, the fact that there's a Tower Records that even exists to this level, like, what is that like?
Yeah, so they have a few Tower Records in Japan. The one that I had gone to, and I went to actually in October, It's I think it's like 7 stories, and basically each floor is a different genre, right?
Wow.
And so like R&B, they call it black music there.
Oh,
I mean,
that's brilliant.
they just call it what it used to be called. But they have rock and so on. And I think on like the 2nd floor, they have like a cafe which sells like books and magazines, but it's almost like a combination. It's like an upscale Panera. So you can sit there and listen to it, and they have these listening stations, and you can listen to CDs. And I don't know exactly how it works, but I think you can just punch it up and just listen to music while you're having your coffee and eating your sandwich or what have you. But then each floor has like a different genre of music.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went this time, the Prince section just had just the normal Prince section. They didn't have really anything special. But in the past, they usually have like displays, like, or whenever anything new comes out, they'll have a display of the new Prince album and all the different, releases he has. And they have, interestingly, I think everything I bought this time was a non-official release.
Oh, okay. They're diving into the
So, and they actually sell that in the store, which is kind of interesting.
man when the money get up. No.
But yeah, there's so there's a couple of these there, but the 2 big ones I think are in Shibuya, which is the one I went to, and then Shinjuku, which is there's another big one there, but there are smaller ones elsewhere.
Wow, 7-story record store. That's wild. Wow.
It's actually funny. I had bought a Tower Records shirt with the intent of wearing it today, but apparently the Japanese extra large is not as big as the American extra large. So
Oh, you didn't want to be in here looking like the Rock.
looking like a fat rock.
Kind of look a little sexy or something. What's going on?
Wearing that extra medium now.
You're working out, sir.
Looking all swole.
Okay. So tell us, JD, did you see either the Controversy or 1999 tours or both?
Yes. Yeah, no. So the second time I saw Prince was the Controversy tour.
Oh my God.
So I saw them at the Orpheum Theater in Boston. So I was in college at this time. So I was a freshman that year. And so we had gone across into Boston to catch the show. Now, at that, the internet didn't exist back then, right? And there weren't a lot of videos. So when, the time opened for them. So I really didn't know what to expect, right? I just knew the music was funky, but I didn't know what I was going to see visually. And I mean, I was blown away. I mean, they were so tight. They were amazing. They were all young back then. I mean, they were just put together. It was just incredible. I mean, and just how they looked, right? They were high energy. The choreography was on. They were very cool. Everybody was wearing baggies at that time, right? So that was like very popular. And they were like, and to me, they stole the show. That's how I felt afterwards, right? I mean, and then then Prince came on, and he pretty much played. I think he pretty much played all of Controversy that I can remember, except Private Joy. I remember I liked that song, and he didn't play it. I was like, oh, But and then he played about half of Dirty Mind in the Prince album. But again, for me, the biggest memory I have from that tour was the time, because I was just overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, these guys are unbelievable. And at that time, I didn't know what the association was, right? Again, there was no internet, and the magazines, they didn't, they came out once a month, and so there was quite a bit of a lag between kind of what was going on and what you see in print. So that was the second time. I did not get to see 1999 because he did not come to Boston, and he did come to Philly, but he came on if I remember correctly, it was like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and I had an exam on that Wednesday, so I couldn't.
Oh.
I couldn't leave Boston early to come home and catch him, so I missed him. So the next time I saw him after that would have been Purple Rain.
Okay. So tell us about your Purple Rain experience, and I would love to hear how his performance compared to Dirty Mind and Controversy for you in real time.
Sure. So it's interesting. I was a little I was feeling hesitant after you read all those reviews last week because they were so negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my initial impression of the Purple Rain tour was uh, disappointment, I guess,
Mm,
for a couple of reasons, right? I mean, this is no knock on Sheila E., right? But again, there was no internet, so I didn't know that the Time had disbanded and had split, and they weren't going to be on the tour, right? I was fully expecting them to be there, and then I saw Sheila E. was going to be on. Um, she was going to be on the set, and so I thought, oh, we're going to get a bonus. We're going to see Sheila E., the Time, and Prince. I thought, oh, this is great. And then when we got there, obviously it was just Sheila E. and then Prince and no Time. And like I said, there was no internet, so you had no idea what was going on, or at least I didn't. And so I was a little disappointed with that. Sheila was good, right? And so I definitely enjoyed that. As far as the concert itself, the one thing, I guess another disappointment for me. I mean, I love the song Controversy. And they played it. It was like the first song they played, but they played it from behind the curtain. So even before they opened officially with Let's Go Crazy, they're behind this curtain playing Controversy. And, people are still milling in, and, that's, sitting behind a curtain is not very high energy, right? It's not something that people kind of, it just kind of got people into their seats. But I was kind of disappointed that, that's when he just chose to play Controversy. And then I'm trying to remember the show. So the show, he pretty much played the entire album. And then he, and then he played God. I remember that there's like an interlude where he plays God, and it kind of slows. I felt like it slowed the concert down, right? It kind of went from high energy to this interlude with God, which I'm not a huge fan of the song. And if I remember correctly, I think like Father's Song, he kind of weaved that in a little bit, which I did like Father's Song, but it's so short, you don't get much of it. And then I think he played about half of 1999. And nothing really older than that, other than Controversy. And then he did play Do Me Baby. I do remember that. But nothing really before the Controversy album.
which night did you go? Do you remember?
So I went on the Friday night. So it's literally 40 years ago today.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was originally, it was going to be just the 2 nights. It was, I think, Thanksgiving and then a Friday, and it sold out so quickly that they added like a third show, I think. And so I don't know how, but my mother somehow was able to get me tickets. And so my sister and I went, and then a buddy from college who had come down for Thanksgiving went with us as well. So, but back then,
I love the moms. The moms.
Yeah. Well, it's actually funny because I'm dating myself, but this is before Ticketmaster, right? And back then, you had to go to like a Ticketron at like a big department store, or like some local record stores would usually get some allocation of tickets.
Yeah.
Now the problem with that is it's a physical ticket, so you don't know where you're sitting. It's whatever they got is what you got, and so that's kind of how it typically worked out for me. But fortunately, I think my mother paid like $17.50 or something, and we ended up on the floor actually. So I was kind of surprised,
Wow.
And my mother doesn't, she never really got into American music. She just, if I wanted tickets somehow, she pulled it out.
Yeah. Wow. And so how did your sister respond to the tour?
Oh no. So my sister, she loved Prince, right? I mean, she's a female, so she, you see what you see on stage. So she loved it, right? And so I think she actually and her husband went to one of the celebrations in the early 2000s. So, even though my parents always teased me about being the fanatic, so to speak, my sister kind of was like low key fanatic.
That's high key. She went to a celebration. Early celebration.
She wasn't telling my parents that,
Yeah. So
like, okay, let John be the target.
So I'm sure you've seen Prince many times in your life. And so do you have like a favorite Prince tour?
Yeah, I've probably seen him close to 20 times, I'm guessing. He did the 21 nights here in LA. So I was able to see 6 of the shows in the Forum. and one of the shows at the House of Blues.
Nice.
I guess the ones that the concerts that leaped to mind was in one of those shows. It was like on a Friday, and Jesse Johnson was playing in Hollywood. And at this point, my wife was all princed out, so she was like, "Okay, you could go by yourself." So she wasn't going with me. So I went to see Jesse Johnson in Hollywood, and Prince was playing at the Forum the same night. So I went to the early show. The show was done probably by 10. And so as I'm driving back from LA down to Orange County, because I live south of LA, it was maybe 10:30, and I knew Prince's shows were starting later and later. And so I on impulse said, "Hey, let me go see if I can get a quick ticket." And so I was at that time they were selling like the upper decks tickets for like 25, and you could easily migrate down because they were trying to fill the lower seats. So I on impulse said, "Okay, let me go," and I got a ticket, and I basically saw. After Jesse Johnson, I went and saw Prince before, and then about I don't know, maybe it was around 1:00. I get a call on my phone from home, like, "Hey, where are you? Is you still Jesse Johnson?" I'm like, "Oh no, I decided to go see Prince." And my wife's like, "Okay,
you at?
That damn Jesse's been playing a long time.
Yeah.
But
I know where she's going.
I would say the two best shows that I've seen was one was during the One Night Alone tour. He played at the Detroit Opera House, which has great acoustics, right? And it only seats maybe 2,000 people. And so that was a great show because at that time the NPG Music Club was doing, if you bought tickets, you could come in for the sound check as well. So you're there for 5+ hours, right? And so that was a great show because that concert was put together, and then be able to see the sound check, and then he was interacting with people, so it was kind of funny because people would come in and sit down, and wherever he went is where everybody's eyes were following. And I don't know how he does it, but there was there were maybe 4 or 5 females that were sitting maybe a few rows in front of me, and they were all giggly because they were watching him. And then he vanished for a bit. And next thing you knew, he appeared in the row right behind him, just sort of sitting there. And they had no idea that he was sitting right behind them. And they're talking and being all giggly. And then he kind of makes himself known. And needless to say, the girls get all excited. But that show was great. The other show that I thought was great was, I think before he did the O2, he did that big run in London. I don't know how many nights it was, but I think they were prepping for that at the Roosevelt Hotel here in Hollywood. And so this must have been 2007. So I had moved here from Detroit, and my family wasn't here yet. So I was here by myself. So I was able to get tickets. And so I remember it was on a Friday. So I knew it was going to be a late night. So I actually booked a room at the hotel. And so I went up there Friday early. They told me he wasn't coming on until typically about 11:30. So I'm old, so I took a nap beforehand to prepare myself. But I went to the show, and he probably played from 11:30 to maybe 2:30, and then they took a break, and then they went out into this bar lounge area. They had closed off. I think it faced Hollywood Boulevard. They had closed off, and the band set up, and then they played until 6:00 in the morning.
Wow.
So that was a really small venue. There couldn't have been more than 100 people there. It was very, very tiny. But yeah, he played for another, like I said, it must have been 2.5, 3 hours. And then, like I said, he was done by 6:00. And then I went up and took my nap again and then drove back to Orange County.
Wow.
But those are probably the two of my favorites.
Wow.
I can see why, for sure. So going back to the Purple Rain tour, if you can remember, can you remember anything about the ambiance? What I mean by that, or the crowd, what were people wearing? How are people responding? Just kind of that kind of stuff.
Can I
Sure. So the crowd was
wait, can I add on to your question?
Sure.
Because you asked a question I wanted to ask, because I know you were, when you talked about seeing them in Controversy, you said it was I think at a suburb. And I wanted to know, could you talk about for me, there was a noticeable crowd difference demographically, because I got to see Prince 3 times before Purple Rain. And they were in southern towns. They were all in Memphis, Tennessee, and they were majority black crowd. So when I saw Prince open for Rick James, it was a majority black crowd. When I saw the Controversy tour in Memphis, majority black crowd. And when I saw 1999 tour, it was majority black crowd. And so my question for you is, did you have that same experience seeing Prince before the Purple Rain tour, and then getting to Prof. Duff's questions about the ambiance of the Purple Rain crowd?
Yeah, so it was that the first time I saw him in Dirty Mind, where it was in this suburb, right? And Cherry Hill's kind of a lily white suburb. I mean, it is what it is, right? But the crowd, I mean, it was sponsored by WDAS, which is the radio station in Philadelphia. I think there was a DJ there named Butterball, who was really promoting Prince, and he was cool. I mean, it's funny, he was a white guy.
I love that name, Butterball.
But I did not know. I mean, he was very smooth. He was very. I mean, you would not know and listen to the radio that he was white. And but yeah, so he was big promoting Prince. So the station was promoting the event, I believe. So even though it was in Cherry Hill, which is basically all white, the crowd was all black. I mean, and I mean, Emerald City, that club. I mean, the groups that came in. I mean, like I saw Slave there later. It was a lot of these funk bands. Roger Troutman, I saw Zapp there, right? Wow. And later on, but they were a lot of these funk bands came there. Andre Simone, I actually saw Andre Simone probably like 2 years afterwards there. So it was kind of amazing. But yeah, so it was almost all black crowd. Controversy, which was in Boston, which was like a year later, was again mostly black. I did not see 1999, but Purple Rain, that's when you saw the shift, right? And that was one of the positives I had for it. Like, I felt like, okay, hey, my guy's made it, right? Everybody knows who he is. Everybody wants to see him, right? He's going to be a superstar. He is a superstar, right? But up until, I would say up until Purple Rain hit, even with 1999, he was still kind of, most people perceived him as a niche.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think perceived him as a superstar at that point, right? Even though 1999 is an incredible album, he hadn't kind of crossed over just completely, right? I think Little Red Corvette helped that and probably Delirious, but still he wasn't what he became. But the crowd, I would say at Purple Rain was, like I said, probably more than half white. The shift was noticeable. It was significant, right? I mean, it went from like all black to more than half white. As far as the attire, I don't want to sound sexist or anything, but the women, what they were wearing, right? Everybody's trying to dress like Apollonia and Vanity, which for us is pleasing to the eyes, right? I'm not going to complain. So you had a lot of women dressing like that. And then with the guys, again, I think people were expecting the time. So there were guys dressing in baggies. I mean, that's what people were wearing at the time, right? And, baggies, people were kind of dressing up, wearing jackets and things like that. But, in that day and age, you didn't have young people wearing jackets to concerts. I mean, that was probably more the exception. But yeah, especially in a big arena like the Spectrum, but yeah, people were dressing up. And like I said, the whole vibe was, like I said, I was glad he made it. I was a little disappointed in the concert because, again, he didn't, like I said, the God section was a little kind of like, I felt like it dragged the show down a little bit. And then everything else was more or less like the movie. And I'm trying to remember. I don't remember him playing anything that I had not heard before. Right. So like Possessed was something that I know he played later on in the tour. I hadn't, I don't remember him playing that certainly when he was in Philly.
I have one question that slightly deviates, but something that you guys were both saying about him being sort of a niche. What do you think? And this is for everybody. What do you think? What if Purple Rain didn't really hit? Like, what if it wasn't a big seller and it wasn't the big movie? Do you think that he would have continued to stay? I mean, I guess my question is, where do you think he would have went? Do you think he still would have went to Around the World in a Day? Or would he have let me I need to double back down on the funk or something. I'm just curious what ever thought about what would have happened if Purple Rain didn't become a big hit and he didn't become a superstar. He was just still, you know, a black star, I guess.
Well, I'll start by saying that I think your question, even my answer, is, I have to say, doesn't necessarily account for the part you're asking, because we do know that Around the World in a Day is at least 70% done by the time he's going to or midway through the Purple Rain tour. So
right with, you know, and that's the preparation to that is with, wow, this shit is blowing up.
Right.
We know.
So,
okay.
Yeah. So the question is, let's say he's midway through Around the World in a Day, and Purple Rain doesn't do what it does.
Yeah. Let's say it stops at When Doves Cry.
Yeah. And so the question you're asking then is, does he continue with what he's doing with Around the World in a Day, or does he do something else? And I would say my knee-jerk answer is, because Prince, you know, and I've used this phrase before, because Prince is batshit cool, batshit crazy. I don't know, and I say that because he knew I used that term, so not saying. But I would say that I think that's a really good question, because what you're asking is, would he have plowed through? And that's probably one of the happenstance or the theorizing that I would have to say I'm really not sure, because one thing about Prince, once he was onto something, he was on. I like to say Prince believed wholeheartedly in what he believed until he believed something else, right? Like, you know, people say, well, Prince said this, yeah, because he believed that at that time. And then a month later, a week later, if he got some new literature, if he got some new information, he believed that. So I don't know is my general answer, but I would lean toward, I think that he would plow through whatever he was plowing through, because that seemed to be who and what he would be. Now the question would be, what extra songs would have been added onto Around the World in a Day? Would he have kept Dance Electric for himself? Right? That would be the question that I would like to know. So I'll shut up with that, my little part answer on that.
And let me throw in this for you guys, and tying it into like the Black Album, for instance, the same sort of way, because I think would it be like the same sort of talk of, man, you're not this enough anymore. Oh, so let me come with the Black Album to show you that I really am, or would we had to deal with that? Would you have done that earlier? So I'm just throwing all this into you guys.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know either. I mean, I answer the first question. I think he probably would have tried to plow through, right? Because I think he was pretty independent thinker as it relates to where he was going musically. I think the challenge would have been the confrontation with Warner Brothers probably would have escalated earlier, because, you know, they gave him a lot of leeway, right? I mean, when he did 1999, at that point, you know, he only had 3 or 4 albums under his belt, not necessarily huge sellers, and that probably would not have warranted a double album on a major label like that. You know, that's my sense. Because I think people were surprised when 1999 was a double album, like, oh, wow, he's got a double album already. That's one. Also, the movie, right? And so now, you know, you've gone from a big step to a double album to now you're letting this guy do a movie, right? Which people were skeptical of as well, right? I mean, let's remember, I mean, we can sit here in hindsight, look back at Purple Rain, the movie, and say, yeah, it was a great success. But before that came out, people were skeptical, like, okay, can this guy act? Can he, you know, he doesn't even talk, how he's going to act, right? You know, people were like, you know, very, very concerned. And, you know, and this is just fans. So I can't imagine what Warner Brothers, who's sinking all this money into it, was probably very nervous, I've got to believe. I'm sure they must have done test screenings that showed that the movie was going to play well. But I would have thought, you know, if Purple Rain didn't hit, I would have thought maybe Warner Brothers would have said, hey, let's take a step back and figure out kind of where we want to be. That would have been my sense. And
yeah,
D'Angelo.
I'm with Rodney. So Rodney said that I think he would continue his journey from the beginning. Warner Brothers gave him carte blanche. He was changing up each album before PR. I don't think I personally think that he probably would have done like a Love Sexy thing, like what he did with Black Album, meaning like I think he would have abandoned Around the World. Well, first of all, I don't even know if he knew Around the World in a Day was going to be Around the World in a Day. He was just recording those songs, you know, and then they became Around the World in a Day.
Mhm.
But I think when Prince has had a major catastrophe, let's say the Rolling Stones catastrophe,
Right.
that lit a fire under his butt. And so
Right.
he was like, let me show you. And so
Mhm.
I feel like if Purple Rain would have failed, I think it would have just made him do something to go like, let me show you I'm one of the greatest.
Mhm.
And I think that, I don't know. I don't know. I just think it would have been really, really interesting. I do think that if it wasn't Purple Rain, Prince was eventually going to get to that mountaintop some way, somehow.
Mhm.
So if it wasn't Purple Rain, then, you know, maybe it would be the next project, then on the next project after that. That's my personal opinion, because don't underestimate Prince. Like whenever you start underestimating Prince, that's when he goes, let me show you.
Mhm.
And so like I think he would have done something spectacular.
Just one quick question though. I mean, you know, you say, well, I agree with the idea that he would try to take on any challenge, but I've got, you know, if Purple Rain didn't hit, it's got to be a little a jolt, right? That your very strong material that you're releasing did not do well. Has got to be something that's got to shake your confidence a little bit, right? And I don't think he's ever shown it publicly where his confidence was shaken. But should Purple Rain have flopped, for example, which obviously sounds ridiculous now, you know, you don't know how would somebody react to, you know, your strongest material kind of not reaching the audience you would have expected.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's kind of like with I think it happens later with Under the Cherry Moon, right? Like obviously that didn't do what they had,
Right.
so they were like, yeah, this is going to be successful. But then he, you know, still has the album out, and really what Kiss is the thing that is the big hit. But they kind of still plows through. But I guess is the difference. Okay, I'm changing my band up.
Mhm.
I'm going back to Prince, and I'm going back to, you know, I'm gonna do a double album, but now I'm gonna be on this. You know, so different. Is that a reaction to? But again, through that whole time, he's doing all these other album projects that don't come out, right? Sort of finding a different sort of vibe. You know, the Camille album, uh, Crystal Ball, Dream Factory. So many different changes to get to this something else that's going to be the new thing. So I don't know. He seems to always be reactionary, and it's not a bad thing. I was just curious what you guys would have thought if that would have happened a little earlier.
I think a key thing that you just said, Michael, is that Prince was always working on an ungodly amount of songs at any particular time, that the albums that we got were, in my personal opinion, obviously we don't have Prince to talk to. I wish we could talk to Prince, because this is one of the questions I would ask him, is that it feels like he was just like pouring out music, and when he was able to release an album, he did that, meaning like he did that with the songs that he had. But I don't know necessarily, especially when like starting with, I guess maybe 83, like when like The Time and Vanity 6, when he started just, and all these other songs that we hear on originals and Sheila E. and all, there was so much music that his own albums could have gone so many different ways,
Right.
that any external incident could have made any of the albums that we love become something totally different.
Well, that's kind of what I'm asking, you
Yeah.
know, because he always had the music is always going to be, he's got all the styles already written, but how is it presented to us, right? Is the thing like, is it presented as some pop whimsical thing, or is it presented as some, you know, R&B thing? But it's still kind of this, he's just pulling whatever songs he has that can fit with any one of those genres, like, or does he just totally like, okay, well, hip hop's hitting, cool, I'm gonna make the album sound like that style, and I'm
I
gonna get
think
some
that
rappers, and you know.
Yeah, I think that was different though. I think Prince in the 80s is different than Prince in the 90s in terms of his musical output and how he was approaching that musical output. That's my personal opinion. But I actually want to put up Big Sexy's question, because Big Sexy says Mike's question is premature. The question was, what happens if Dirty Mind didn't resonate with the new wave market? Does he go back to the first two albums? That's Big Sexy's question.
And you know, this is not to take away from Prince's genius. I will say that I've always said that I've had to lean into, at least for this particular album, Warner Brothers' ability to see what this record could be. I think that in seeing it just as it was, we're not going to pretty it up. You're not going to go in and do any more stuff with it. You know, we know all the mythology around Prince didn't have any more money, so he couldn't. Now, BS. If Warner Brothers wanted that record done some other way or added stuff to it, they'd have made a way. And so I love Big Sexy's question. And I also think about that also speaks to the image and vision that Warner Brothers had for Prince as well. Right. Mm-hmm. I think that Dirty Mind hit as much what Warner Brothers was thinking about Prince could be as much as Prince was thinking about what Prince could be. And so if that record doesn't do what we know it did in whatever way, that would be a really interesting, because I think at that point, Warner Brothers is doing as much soul searching as Prince is doing. Because Warner Brothers really believed in that record. If you look at the press junket around the Dirty Mind tour, some of Prince's best interviews, some of his most legendary interviews are around the promotion around the Dirty Mind album. I mean, which says that Warner Brothers really believed in that record. So I love Big Sexy's question. I just want to add to it that that's as much a question for Warner Brothers as it is for Prince, because I think both entities were highly invested in that record. I'll shut up.
Just one quick one. I was thinking about Dirty Mind, right? I mean, it's been more than 40 years, so maybe my memory is a little fuzzy. But what I remember is that when it first came out, there were questions, and it didn't sell probably as well as people initially expected out of the box. But I think the reviews, the critics were very, very positive, and I think that kind of gave Warner Brothers and more confidence that, hey, maybe the average fan doesn't fully appreciate this yet, but the critics see the art here and see the brilliance that's coming through in this music, and I think that helped carry it on further as far as becoming big. The other thing I was thinking is, you talk about Warner Brothers. I think Warner Brothers, was a very artist-friendly label, right? Despite his battles later on, right? They were very, and I think labels in general were probably more artist-friendly and trying to develop their acts. And I was thinking about this recently. I was listening to one of the old Parliament Funkadelic albums, and as I'm sitting there listening to it, I'm thinking to myself, there is no way in the world that somebody would release something like this now, right? It's pretty abstract. Right. There's a lot of seemingly random things going on, right? And to think that, back then that was almost the norm. And it was a fortunate time for all of us that, the record companies were looking for different styles, and it was great. I mean, I appreciate it. I mean, I go back to Slave, again, kind of an underground group, really. They didn't hit the mainstream until Stone Jam with Watching You. I mean, they had Slide, but there was a big gap between Slide and Just a Touch of Love, and then Just a Touch of Love, and then Watching You. But they were still cranking out albums almost every year, right? And their label didn't hesitate to say, oh, no, we're going to put this out, right? So it was just a different time.
Yeah.
All right, JD. So thank you so much for being with us. I am going to remove you from the screen if that's okay.
It's fine. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time. And
thank you so much, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Brother JD, I just want to say thank you for everything you do in the chat. Thank you for this, man. You are like we all and I get that to Brother Turnbull, who said the chat is his own thing. But I mean, specifically for you and the information, I love the fact that you give me information and you also make me rethink some things I've been thinking about. And to me, that's the best kind of fan. That's the best kind of person to know. So I just want to say to your face, thank you for being you and for all you contribute, bro. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Actually, just one more quick thing I want to say, D'Angela. We talk about the next generation and how do we get Prince, people to appreciate his music. And I had an incident recently that kind of made me realize how tough the battle is.
Yeah.
One of the things I do is I do undergraduate admissions interviews for my alma mater. And this was last week, actually. So as I'm interviewing this student, we get to the end and he sees on my phone, I have my wallpaper as a picture of Prince. And he looks at it and he's like, "Oh, excuse me, who is that?" And so I said, "Oh, it's Prince." And he looked at me with he had this look of, "Who is that?" And so I had to explain to him who it was. And the fortunate thing was he was open-minded enough to ask me, like, "Oh, can you recommend some things?" So I recommended some songs, some videos, and so on that he has since checked out, because he sent me a note back saying, "Oh yeah, that Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance was unbelievable." Or
Nice.
I had never heard that before, but it just shows me kind of the uphill battle it is to kind of get his music out there still with the younger people. And like I said, I was surprised he didn't know who he was.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I mean, I knew. I mean, I'll give you. So this is probably 20 years ago. I was teaching in Philly, and the students didn't even know who Rocky was. When Rocky was filmed in Philly in the Philadelphia Museum steps, and when I realized that, I was like, "Oh my God!" Like, cultural memories can fade really, really quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, and then when Jerome visited NYU, and this was, I want to say 2017, and I had a Black grad student, I introduced him to Jerome, and I realized that he did not have a clue who he was. And I was like, "Oh my God." I was like, "Have you seen Purple Rain?" And he was like, "No." And he was into film. This was into film. And I was like, "Do you know who hands you're shaking?" So I had to tell the student, "You need to go and watch Purple Rain." And that wasn't that long ago. So I'm very excited because I'm teaching my first Prince course at NYU in the spring at the Clive Davis Recorded Music Institute at NYU. So I'm just really excited to learn how students, interface with Prince at this particular point in time, and to see if I can get, at least one or two to spread the gospel, to get the purple bug so they'll carry it with them throughout their entire lives and spread the gospel. And the reason why it's so important to me is that when things get bad, as they often do in the world, music is what I cling to, and Prince has been that anchor for me. And I just want to give I want to give young people an anchor, like something that they can hold on to, like when the world just goes to crap. So that's one of my goals, just the power of music and how important music is. Because another thread for me is, just, we never want to forget about Prince, obviously, but if you take Prince out of the equation and just think about music, music alone is just being devalued in the society, and people aren't even. I'm finding out. I think I told you guys this, that young people don't even listen to entire songs. And I go "Oh my God, what do you mean you don't even listen to the entire song?" So we live in this snippet world. And how can you listen to a Slave song or Ohio Player song as a snippet when you don't go through the journey, of some of those cinematic masterpieces? Think of a song like Crystal Ball. I mean, it's just how can you listen to a snippet of Crystal Ball? But I guess some people do, and I just does not compute. So I'm hoping that to instill just a love of music and a love of listening, actually really listening, people say a close reading, but I'm hoping to get the students to do a close listening of music and how it can move and remove, as you know, Uncle George would say. So we'll see.
So I just, to kind of make this full circle, when Brother JD was talking about his father taking him to the show, I think that's what it is. I think that the technology now, and I've said this before, most of us were raised in a house where there was one television and one radio. And so coming from a generation where you were raised in a house where there was one television, one radio, what you think is your culture is actually your parents' and grandparents' culture. We were actually handed our parents and grandparents' music. We were handed our parents and grandparents' cultural taste. Now, over 20 years of smartphones and internet, they don't have to share, and we're not being intentional in sharing. So that's one of the things that new technology has done. New technology has fragmented or destroyed the easy way in which cultural tastes were disseminated by family. I watched the Flip Wilson show because my grandmother was watching the Flip Wilson show. And so now Flip Wilson is part of my cultural memory. And for years I thought, oh, that's my culture. That really wasn't my culture. Flip Wilson was really my, the Platters. I know the Platters because I listened to the Platters with my father. Like I wouldn't have been at 12 years old trying to hear the Platters. Right. So I think that we have to find a way to be intentional about having our nephews and nieces, and I don't have any nephews and nieces. I have a grandson, and I'm intentional about having my grandson sit and watch certain movies with me or listen to certain, not just Prince things, right? He needs to know some Eddie Murphy movies, and he needs to know some Amir Baraka and Langston Hughes and Nikki Giovanni books. But I think we have to really be intentional in making sure we share our art with people younger than us, because it doesn't naturally happen anymore because they can isolate on their phones. That's it. I'll shut up.
Just one quick comment, and then to steal C Leigh's line, I will shut up. But you talked about snippets, D'Angela, and I was reminded because one of the groups that I love is Heat Wave, and everything that Rod Temperton does. And when you listen to Heat Wave songs or a lot of Rod Temperton songs, he's got like very long intros and very long outros, right? And to me, you don't appreciate the whole song if you're not listening to the whole thing. And if you just want to hear the context of the chorus or the little snippet here and there, you're going to miss most of the song. And he's one of those writers that, it's just brilliant. Like, I just listened to how he's constructed the song. I'm like, oh my gosh, and again, a white guy, I was like stunned. Like, I can't believe this British guy from the middle of nowhere in England is writing all these songs. But I think the snippets, though, it's diluting the music and kind of, I think it's hurting. But people just aren't patient enough to go through the entire song or album, which we had to do, or which we did.
Yeah. So again, JG, I just want to thank you so much for coming on. It's
Thank you very much for
having me. See you in person. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Okay, so let's get into it because our timekeeper has already let us know that we are behind. So let's get into our first review of the week. And it is called, and this is for the Detroit show. I really, even though we're off from Detroit this week, I would just want to read this one last Detroit review by Dennis M. Walcott. Prince's live act pushes to conquer Purple Rain. The jury will be out a few more days on which concert act of 1984 is the biggest. Prince ranks in the top 3. Who do you think is the other 2?
At this time?
Yeah, right now. In 84? We've been reading about it. Okay, never mind.
Michael Jackson and who?
Michael Jackson and who? You got it right. Victory Tour and who?
I can't think of the other. Oh, shoot. We did mention them. I can't remember. Tell me.
Bruce Springsteen.
There we go. Oh, long ass ain't got no damn way to go, Bruce Springsteen. I got a Bruce Springsteen concert I'll save for later. But just know, when you go to see Bruce Springsteen, he ain't got nowhere else to be that night. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes. Okay. So that's the teacher in me. Well, so because we're supposed to be learning from week to week.
That's
so
right.
right now, the three major tours that are going on in November of 1984 are the Jackson's Victory Tour, Bruce Springsteen, and Prince's Purple Rain. Okay. So Prince ranks in the top three with the Jacksons and Bruce Springsteen. However, after 7 sold-out performances at Joe Louis Arena here, the sexy and glamorous rocker from Minnesota has a lot of ground to cover to push his live act into the same spot as his best-selling Purple Rain album. The reigning king of musical fantasy, no doubt, will sell out about as many or more shows as the 2 other hit acts, but the issue of musical enjoyment will remain to be tested. Prince, who launched his international tour in the Motor City last week, still was working out the rough edges Sunday night. A 45-minute wait after opening act C Liegh warned the 20,000 plus fans was annoying, as were the strung-out musical arrangements to allow for Prince's many costume changes. The worst delay was waiting for Prince's first encore. Technical problems were to blame. Prince's technical music arrangements that come off so crisp and clean on vinyl were muddied in concert. Lyrics were garbled, high volume, distorted instruments, and hurt the ears. Okay, before I move forward on this, I personally think that a lot of this might have to do with the sound system of that arena. And also, I personally don't like to go see arena tours. Just, I'm a club girl. Like I prefer seeing live shows in a club just because of the sound. And so I wonder how much of this is due to the arena versus Prince's setup. So that's one question I have. Some of Prince's most moving moments came when he went solo on electric piano and slowed things down. Pure soul rang from his voice, which could be understood with the lower volume. But Prince seemed uneasy to himself. He even apologized to the audience when he improvised a few numbers during his father's song interlude. Maybe sitting for too long got to him. An awesome dancer, Prince covered every inch of the stage with movements that would make James Brown envious. He has toned down his X-rated hip motions and posturing from previous years, but still offers the women reason to scream. The light show almost overwhelmed the musicians on stage. It was one of the finest color arrays ever displayed on the Detroit concert scene. The movable stage also contributed to an entertaining performance, and performance is where Prince may win out at the end. Whereas Springsteen wins over crowds with his raw musical appeal, and the Jacksons outdo themselves with props, Prince is blending the right measure of both. It was nice not to see repeats of songs as they are played on a record. A little innovation mixed with his stage antics put forth a true performance. So I thought this was a pretty balanced review. And the reason being, I really do think the technical issues is probably based on the venue. But another reason why I wanted to read this one is to give context of who else was touring, even though we've been reading about it, just so people understand the competition that Prince is on at this time as a live performer. And then another thing that I liked was, how they point out that, because like some of the reviews have talked about how this is just kind of like the movie, but I love that this particular review said that it was nice to see that it wasn't a repeat of the record. So and because, that's one thing that Prince excelled at, was actually performing songs. That's the reason why I love Sign Times Live better than I do the record, because like he just really made those songs like come to life, and like live Prince live can't be beat. That
Prince had the uncanny ability to destroy the studio version of a song.
Yes.
Like once you heard the live version, it's not that you hated the studio version, you just really couldn't go back to some of those. Like as much as I love Forever in My Life on the Sound of Times album, and when I'm listening to the Sign of Times album, I will listen to it. But if I think forever in my life, I'm thinking that damn live version with it. Like it is, that is just a whole different kind of presentation. So I agree with you 100% that to hear a reviewer talking about the fact that Prince is opening up these songs and deconstructing them in ways and making them something new. I think that is a testament to, again, Prince's genius that we've always seen. I'll shut up.
All right. Next article. This is from St. Cloud, Minnesota. And I love the title, Blue Noses for Purple Rain. The temperature dropped to 14 degrees overnight.
Good Lord.
While about 75 people waited in the cold for Prince concert tickets to go on sale today at the Wax Museum, 28th Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
Some people have been waiting since dusk Sunday. When the store opened at 9 a.m. today, the line had grown to about 150 people. The record store had about 365 tickets for the December 26 and 27 concerts in Minneapolis, and a store spokesman said he expected them to be sold out. Each person could buy as many as 6 of the tickets, which are priced at $15.50 and $17.50. So this actually ties to what JD was talking about earlier in terms of having to go to a physical location and how that physical location only had a certain amount of tickets to sell. So it's nice to get that verification. All right, so here's a similar article, but with a little bit different information. And this is from the Star Tribune. Prince concerts sell out, fans create non-natural event phone record. Thousands of fans were lined up Monday morning to get tickets for Prince's national tour concerts next month in St. Paul. One group of teenagers had been camped out since Saturday night. If tickets were difficult to get, calling downtown Minneapolis Monday became nearly impossible as the local Rock Heroes fans jammed a single phone line they could use to buy tickets. Northwestern Bell spokesman John Walker said it was the worst telephone tie-up ever caused by a non-natural event in Minneapolis.
Wow.
Only Minnesota blizzards, it seemed, could outjam Prince fans.
Wait a minute. Say it. Who is that again? What was that phone company? Say it again.
It's that only Minnesota.
No, who's the phone company? What was the phone company?
Oh, Northwestern Bell.
The kids don't understand. Say it one more time. So who's the phone company?
Northwestern Bell.
For the kids in the crowd in the chat, there was only one phone company. Bell South, my Bell.
Yep.
That was only one.
For context from our young players, the phone companies essentially would have been the way you look at like Google or something today. Like they would have major, and a lot of your family members worked at the phone company.
Yep.
That's how that was.
Thank you. You can pre-see it all, brother. Thank you, brother Dean. That's the perfect way to put it. I need them to understand. We had one phone company in the whole country. That's it.
That's right. Okay. At the peak of the problem, the phone jamming up, Walker said the switching machine that services about 85,000 downtown telephones was trying to handle about 3 times its normal capacity of 125,000 calls an hour. That's insane. The line jamming started at 7 a.m. and cleared up by mid-afternoon. Enough fans succeeded by phone or by waiting in lines that by late afternoon, a Civic Center telephone recording informed those who got a slower start. Both concerts, December 26th and 27th, were sold out. So, okay. This is from the Star Tribune, and I thought, okay. Yes, I see why I wanted to read this one. So Martha Dieter, 16, of Deep Haven, and several friends began plotting early about how to get the best Prince seats with the least wait. They listened to different radio stations for information, and on Saturday heard a few announcers say that the Civic Center would be selling tickets, but some stations didn't mention the Civic Center, they said. Dieters double-checked by calling the St. Paul police who told her police were asked to watch the Civic Center because it would be selling Prince tickets. The Civic Center is known to have the best tickets, and we figured we could beat the line by getting there Saturday, and we did, Dieter said. Indeed, Dieters and two friends were the only fans at the ticket office when they set up camp at 6 p.m. Saturday for Monday tickets now. They brought down sleeping bags, lawn chairs, and a kerosene heater. And being complete campers, they naturally had cassette tape decks that blared Purple Rain, Let's Go Crazy, and other Prince songs. They slept in their car Saturday night, but by Sunday evening, other competitors started arriving, and Dieters and her companions had to bed down outside to keep their number one position. It was funner, too, she said, now that they had company. They didn't get much, if any, sleep, she said, and after about 2:30 a.m., they didn't get much warmth because the heater failed. By then, up to 100 other fans had joined them in temperatures that dipped to the low 20s. There were tons of boom boxes going and people standing around trying to keep warm after the heater died halfway through the night. Since we were first, we gave people numbers and tried to keep them in line. When they got their eagerly anticipated chance to part with $17.50 per ticket, they did so jubilantly and guarded them tickets with our lives and came straight home, Dieter said. She said she got tickets for Christmas presents for herself, her two sisters, and a boyfriend. Also waiting in line at the Civic Center was a Maplewood woman who was buying tickets for 6 nephews who would probably kill me if I don't get tickets. I don't even want to see Prince, said the woman who declined to give her name. This was ridiculous. Here I am, and I'm almost 40. I wouldn't have done this for Little Richard back in my day.
See, look here. She lying because she wouldn't have mentioned Little Richard. She lied. Why she in line? She lying.
Little Richard never would have had us.
I got my Little Richard tickets at the record store. Where you supposed to get them?
The waiting was too much for Martha Ralston, 17, of Minneapolis. She and a friend arrived about 1:30 a.m. yesterday with sleeping bags at the Wax Museum, 419 West Lake Street. The store started selling tickets about 8 a.m., but by then, Ralston said she had fainted from lack of sleep and food. Wow. An ambulance took her to Hennepin County Medical Center where she was treated and released. Ralston said her efforts were not in vain because a friend bought tickets for her.
Very good. Good job. Good job, friend.
Yes, good job, friend. Cliff Brown, 24, Minneapolis, arrived at 6:30 a.m. and was given number 198. He kept warm by a bonfire fueled with wood pallets until firefighters put it out about 9:30 a.m. By 11 a.m.
Haters.
Doing an encampment?
A bunch of haters out there. Hating ass firemen. All right, let's move on.
By 11 a.m., people with numbers in the 80s were being called into the small building where tickets were sold on a vacant lot next to the Wax Museum. The lot was covered with sleeping bags early yesterday morning, Brown said. This is pitiful, he said. I grew up with Prince in North Minneapolis. His mother lives five houses from our house. I hope he appreciates his fans doing this.
You know, it's fascinating looking back at this is what, you know, you had to do to get ticket. Can you imagine, like, you bought a ticket for something that might be like a month away and you got to hold on to that piece of paper and make sure you don't lose it because you ain't getting another one. You know, you lose that, you ain't getting in. Can you? I mean, it just sounds so foreign now, but that's what it was. You know, sleeping bags, and man, that's a lot.
I always had a special place where I kept my tickets. Like I would buy them, like you said, you would get them like a month ahead. And so like every place I've lived, I've had a special place for my tickets. And they generally tended to be in the bedroom. You have that mirror in your bedroom, the dresser bedroom. And for whatever reason, I would slide my ticket stub, you know, that little crevice you could between the mirror and the frame. And I would always slide my tickets in the between the mirror. That way, if I woke up every morning and got ready, I would see them. That's where I would always have my tickets. Like I said, 30 days before, knowing where I could get knowing where my tickets would be. But like you said, you don't have to do it anymore. They're downloaded. They're somewhere digital, you know, on your phone or whatever. So yeah. And just for Sister Kim, I'll just say this. No, not that one. Go up a little bit further. There we go.
Robin? Lord. They had you sleeping on the street, Robin? Damn, dedication.
Dedication. And I love saying Carol Brooks. This was what I did. I put mine in the jewelry box. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm with Carol.
I ain't had no jury box.
So one of the things I wanted to say after reading this and seeing some of the comments in the chat, like for me, being a Prince fan when Prince was alive, it was extremely stressful when it came to the live performances in particular. And what I mean extremely stressful, I mean extremely stressful. I'll talk about my fiasco when my date comes up about the Purple Rain tour, but I don't know. I'm sure I lost some days off of my life just trying to get tickets. And I love Christine saying, put mine under the mattress. That's a good place to put them for sure. Never would have thought about that.
Old school hiding spot. Mattress. So it date somebody when we under the mattress.
I will say this is not Purple Rain related, but my wife and I had tickets to a Time show. And this is like kind of like, I want to say maybe somewhere time after 2024, somewhere in there. Not 2004, somewhere around 2005, somewhere in there. And the place where we were going was about 2 hours away. And we get to the venue, and both of us had assumed that the other person had the tickets.
Oh.
What's the password? What,
that was. We both. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I actually wrote about that because my wife is a very faith-based person. And I was pissed off. I wanted to go home, and she didn't want to go home, and she wanted to go in because I knew they were sold out. So I went in, and I'm like, man, I'm not, and I'm standing there, standing in line. I'm like, I don't know why I'm standing here. They sold out. And this white lady in line walked over to me and said, are y'all trying to get into the show? And I was like, yeah, they sold out. And this white lady reached into her purse and gave me 2 tickets. She said, my husband and I bought the tickets for our children, but they don't know nothing about the time and don't want to come. Hilarious. And so I wished into my, it had to be early 2000s because I was still carrying cash because I haven't carried cash for about 20 years now. And I reached in my pocket to get a lady the money. And this lady, I always say this lady, grabbed my hand, closed my hand and said, no, purple people don't give other purple people money for tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I'll never forget.
I'm actually about to say, don't put the gun down.
All right.
Yeah. I'm gonna give them to you. Don't rob me.
No, black man, you can have the tickets. But no, so that was an interesting. But yeah, that was the one time where we got there, and I looked at her like, hey, you got the tickets, and she looked at me like, hell no, you ain't got it.
Ooh, I know you won't catch it, boy. You better have got some tickets. I get it. You know better. You ain't gonna go home.
Yeah.
Well, that reminds me, I will tell a very quick story of my best friend, Kevin. So Kevin, we used to see a lot of Fishbone shows, a lot of Fishbone. Anytime Fishbone was in town, Fishbone is still one of my favorite bands of all time. And I really we were going to go to this Fishbone show. And I think it was actually Fishbone, Beastie Boys, and why am I blanking on this other group? No, it doesn't matter. So the day of the concert, he comes and picks me up, and I was like, because he said he was going to get the tickets, and he was like, I didn't get the tickets. And I was like, what do you mean you didn't get the tickets? And he was like, I didn't get the tickets, and it's sold out. And I was like, well, we're going down here, and you better get me some tickets because you told me you were going to get the tickets. Make a very long story short,
I didn't get them guys.
We were
get out here on the stroll and get me some tickets.
Exactly.
That's what you gonna do. Who knew that Prop Def's real name was Goldie, and that she was out here making people walk the stroll for the tickets. Your new name now is Golden Duff. That's your new name now.
Yes. So we go down, and it was at Georgia State's college. It was either at the Coliseum or somewhere on Georgia State's campus. Make a very long story short, we got the tickets, but the only reason why we got the tickets is that it was sold to me by my future boyfriend. So they knew who I was. I didn't know who they were because I used to go to Tower Records all the time. And so that was the only way we got these tickets. So I was just like, oh my, and I only found that out like maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years later. It's really crazy. So
wait. You said you're the guy who sold you the tickets.
Yes.
Ended up becoming your boyfriend?
Yeah. But years later. But they knew me, but I didn't know them because they worked at Tower Records and I was at Tower Records every week.
So he put the long play in.
Hey, brother Dean.
Taking notes.
Brother Dean. Every time Pref Duff walked into the Tower Records, homeboy wiping his hands like Birdman.
Yeah, that music switch from Springsteen to Prince.
Yeah. Put that on. I'm really now.
And then it changed. Controversy. How you doing, Deanna?
Yeah. So anyway, I was grateful for those tickets because like that was an amazing show. So amazing about this Fishbone show in particular. I don't know if you guys remember how when you had bleachers in a stadium, how you used to push them back. Like when they weren't, push them all the way back on the wall.
Right.
Well, Angelo Moore, who's the lead singer of Fishbone, he stage dived off of the stage into the crowd. They carried him all the way back to the back of the venue, and he literally scaled the entire bleachers that were like, I don't know how far it was. It was insane. And so, yeah, it was an insane show. So to make a long story short, I was very grateful for those tickets.
Wow.
So
nice.
Yes. No, Love Sexy. Actually, I know it. I almost had it. Who's the band who did Selling the Sea with Cheese? That band, their album was called Selling This. Someone knows about that. Maybe Kim will help me out. And it was Tower Records Atlanta, which is one of the best Tower Records. The one that was in Buckhead, next to Lenox, for sure. All right. So actually, I've never done drugs. I've never smoked pot. Like for me, it was about the music.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like Fishbone. I wasn't a weed head either. So,
yeah. Primus, that's right. Primus.
Oh yeah, Primus. I forgot about them.
So that was like talking about a triple threat, having Beastie Boys, Primus, and Fishbone. That was just like an incredible show. And I was so pissed at my best friend, Kevin. I was like, you going to get me some tickets. So it happened. All right.
Okay, so just one quick thing. Am I the only person who's going to a record store and look at the Primus album covers and go, what the hell? Like Primus, is it me? I got to remember, Primus like had some of the weirdest damn record covers. I would see their album cover like, what in the hell? What is, okay. But anyway, that's my Primus story. So anyway.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Okay. So here is another one from the Twin Cities Reader. And I'm just going to read the last paragraph. And this is called Through a Long Cold Night, Purple Fever, which I like the Purple Fever. And this is an interesting article. And I wish I could read the entire thing, but obviously we're running out of time. So I would highly recommend that you actually read this one, and you can do so by going to our website where you can find the slide deck, which is at the bottom of bookclub.polyslide.com, and you can read it for yourself. But I'm just going to read the last paragraph. The silence and seriousness of the urban campfire watchers cause the mind to wander. What would these kids do if the Peters brothers, those evangelists in the war against heathen rock and roll, suddenly appeared and stoked the fire with a collection of Prince records? It's likely they just back away from the heat a bit and hunker down, biding their time until they could purchase tickets for a different kind of religious experience. So this article basically, talks about how, while, in this day and age, we think that Purple Rain was like an amazing period for Prince, in which it was. There were still a lot of protests against Prince's music. And C Liegh has already spoken about this, many times, about how certain religious groups were very anti-Prince. So I just wanted to read that little bit. I love the heathen rock and roll. suddenly appeared to stoke the fire with a collection of Prince records, which we all know happened with those disco records. So just thought that was interesting. Okay, this next one is from the Millville Daily from Millville, New Jersey. And I'm not going to read the larger article. I'm just going to read a little bit because there's two articles on this one page. One is His Royal Badness Builds a Crossover Musical Monarchy. And then the second one, which I'm going to read from, is Prince's Philly concert sold out. So it says, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, just the ones that I have highlighted. Prince's much anticipated, Spectrum president Aaron Siegel. Spectrum is the arena where Prince performed in Philly. Spectrum president Aaron Siegel is urging persons without tickets to stay away from the Spectrum on the nights of the concerts. The popularity of Prince is reflected in the sold-out concerts. Only persons with tickets will be permitted access to the Spectrum's entrances, Siegel said. The Spectrum Security Department and the Philadelphia Police Department will coordinate crowd control in and around the stadium complex. Now, why am I reading this? I think it's interesting that the police went to the papers and was like, "We telling you not to come down here if you don't have no ticket."
Mm-hmm.
Because we're on the lookout, so I just thought that was really interesting.
Don't be around here milling around.
Yeah. Yes.
We got loitering laws.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, can you, when you get a chance, can you highlight Laura's statement? I just want to say something really quick. So, Laura, I'm going to say this. I've said this many, many times. Anybody who was surprised by the Rainbow Children clearly wasn't paying attention to the Controversy album. That's all I'm going to say. Because Prince was always working within a Judeo-Christian framework. Prince was always preachy. It's just that later in life, some of us didn't like the fact that he was pointing that preachiness at us. But there's no way you could be surprised by the Rainbow Children if you actually truly heard Anti-Christian and the entire Controversy album and read a lot of the things on the Controversy record. That was his narrative arc. That's who he was. He was always striving for that spiritual and religious kind of thing. I'll shut up. That's it.
Yes. So I love Lisa's comments saying, remembering hearing about Philly, they said don't come without tickets. So it's nice to hear that someone remembers that. And then, I mean, back then the police used to arrest folks for trying to scalp tickets for sure. All right. So just to keep it moving, because we still got a lot to go through, we're going to go to, the first show, Sunday, November 18th, Landover, Maryland. This is like one of the tickets. The thing is one thing you have to understand about this is that the tickets were all different because they were coming from different places. So sometimes you might see different tickets because, of the different buildings and stuff you had to go to. So you can see Capitol Center, the Purple Rain Tour starring Prince and the Revolution. And I think this is a comp ticket. Yep, because it has $0 on it. And then this is one for Monday. So the one we just saw was from Sunday. This is from Monday, November 19th. Again, you can see Capitol Center, very the same pretty much, except that this was not torn, this was torn. And then, Susie Davis, who was in Sheila E.'s band, had an auction a while back where she actually sold some cassettes, and they had, like, in addition to those cassettes, because we're going to talk about, like the filming of I Would Die For You, the video very shortly here. But she also had a diary that she was keeping similar, to Eric. And if you want to read that, you can do so in the slideshow. We already talked about where you can find it. And if you're just joining us, just rewind a little bit on the replay. And then on Tuesday, November 20th, 1984, C Liegh, if you don't mind reading about Tuesday, November 20th, 1984, so people can hear a different voice than mine for a change. on page 453. Tuesday at the top.
453.
Yep.
Okay, I was dead ahead. I thought you wanted to read about the charity show. Okay, so all right. Tuesday, November 20, 1984, venue Capitol Center, Landover, Maryland. Capacity 19,026. Sold out. I Would Die For You was scheduled to be re-released as a single, so a promotional video had to be created. Because Prince was on tour and had little time to create a new video, it was decided to take part of his live show at the Capitol Center. This worked well because Warner Brothers had shifted from promoting the film to promoting the album, which had been at number 1 on the charts for 15 weeks since entering at the top of the Billboard listing on August 4th. The tour and the Purple Rain home video, home video, which had been released the previous day on VHS and Betamax. For those of y'all who don't know, Betamax and VHS used to compete. Betamax was a little bit bigger than VHS and sounded like a spaceship taking off whenever you wanted to put the tape in. And so, long live VHS, they kicked Betamax ass. Let's move on. A music video featuring Prince's live performance covered all of those bases. The song had been played the previous night, but the band missed several cues. The recording from the evening was used to create the music video. I will only say that was one of the greatest moments in Prince fandom for me. One, because I'd seen Prince live before Purple Rain. I've told the story about my mama tearing up my Purple Rain tickets. When we get to the Memphis show, I'll tell that story again. But that video and the video for I Would Die For You brought it back to me for my love of music, of Prince. Is live. Prince was a live musician. I was one of those people that I always loved that all the videos before Purple Rain were of live performances. Like I was never one of those people hankering for Prince to make a quote unquote real promotional video. And so I didn't want a Thriller from Prince. And it wasn't that I didn't like Thriller. I want to be clear. I love Thriller. I loved everything Michael Jackson was doing with video. So I want to be clear, because people think when you make these juxtapositions, you're putting one down and say, no, I love the magic that Michael Jackson was making with video, but I also love that Prince was letting us know in his videos, I'm a band leader, I'm a musician, I'm a live performer. This what you gonna get live. So the I Would Die For You, Baby I'm a Star live video, I love so much that it almost got me put in detention, because me and my friends would perform the song in the hallway, line for line. Of course, I had to be Prince, and I would be kidding him. Get a 2, yeah. Get a 3, yeah. Good God. Oh, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ta-ta. And we would be doing that at the top of our voices. And the principal came running down the hall, Brother Dean, and the principal said, McInnis, the teachers are trying to have a meeting, and you and these band of miscreants are in the hall, and we can't have a meeting. And if you make another sound, I'm putting all of y'all in detention. And I looked the principal in his eyes, and I said, good God, oh yeah, and we marched down to detention, singing, Baby I Would Star, I Would Die For You, vamp. Good God,
now that's a fan.
Yeah, so that's it. I said,
damn, y'all was house quaking before house.
I went to detention because the Baby I Would Star, I Would Die For You, vamp.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
25 times.
45 times.
And to be clear, none of us had instruments. We was all making these sounds with our mouths. So I had one dude doing the bass sound with his mouth. Had another dude doing the guitar sound with his mouth. Had somebody else doing the drum. This was all with our mouths, and I was Prince leading the band in the middle of the hallway. That's it.
Wow. So now when these kids, and you see these kids, they be in them videos and they be at school and getting in trouble and they be rapping, like, why he rapping? Remember C Liegh, doing the same thing he was doing, you know.
Back then.
I wanted to, that's an amazing story, hilarious. I don't know if we covered it as we've been reading this book. I don't know if it was a date in here, but that casual mention of the Purple Rain home video out,
Mhm.
that's actually a major milestone in my mind, because that allowed us to watch that movie over and over and really soak in everything that's going on with his style and the presentation and the music, the mannerisms. That was a huge moment, and that's a big deal because normally you didn't get movies to watch at home like that, and particularly so fast. It's unheard of that this movie came out that we could buy that quickly. I think
Usually it was a year.
Beverly Hills Cop was probably the only other movie that was. It might have been the first sell-through movie, but yeah, normally you couldn't watch. I mean, today that's how it is. You know, I think that's the main difference why the culture is different today than it is back then, because now you can watch whatever that cultural thing is over and over and over immediately and soak it all in. Where back then you had to wait and you only went off your memory of what you thought it was.
Yep.
You know, but this was the first time where you got that cultural moment where you could watch it over and over. If you didn't have a VHS, well, you know, this was like the beginning of streaming almost. Think of it like instant access to seeing something. So I think that's a big thing. I didn't remember that it was out during the tour. I didn't remember it like that. That's interesting.
And I would like to apologize. I would like to apologize to all the sisters that's in the chat, because I broke up with my little girlfriend because another girl, mama, had a copy of Purple Rain and VHS Betamax. So I broke up with one girl to go with another girl because her mama had a copy of Purple Rain. I apologize for
I didn't know you was going with the mama thing.
I apologize for doing that, but yes. So I broke up with one girl because the other girl, mama, had a copy of Purple Rain. I apologize. I know that was wrong, but if I was gonna be over there every day, I think I need to make this my girlfriend because I'm gonna be at her house every day. That is all. I'll set up there.
And y'all better not have been watching that sex part of that movie. Better not have been watching that.
Okay, keep it moving. So I think
that podcast would be later. It'd be done after night, because I know how y'all so influenced by everything y'all saw in Purple Rain. Nobody want to talk about how they was influenced by what they was doing on the screen, but we'll get into that another time. I know
that's the other podcast. All right, so I think
the X-rated podcast.
I think it's important though to pause and just reiterate what C Liegh said about how important this "I Would Die for You" video was, particularly for me at this time, because I didn't think I was going to get to go to the Purple Rain tour after going to see the 1999 tour. Is a long story that I won't get into today, but another day, and maybe you've already heard it. So like seeing Prince live obviously is always where it's at, and being able to see him on the Purple Rain tour while the tour is going on was a big deal. So like C Liegh said, like this was a real important video for the Purple community at the time. All right. So Tuesday is still in Landover, Maryland. Not the best ticket, but it's a ticket nevertheless. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the set change from Greensboro, North Carolina that we talked about, which was November 14th, to Landover, Maryland, November 20th. And these are, you know, based on Prince Vault, because all of this is coming from Prince Vault. These were the two shows where they had track listing, because they don't have the track listing for every Purple Rain tour. So these were the two closest from Greensboro to the Capitol Center. And you can see that in the Greensboro show, he had removed Father's Song, but then in the Landover show, he put it back in. So just that, I thought that was interesting. Also, I'm going to show a couple of ads in Philly papers, which I thought was really great to see. And basically this ad was talking about here's how to win free tickets to see a Prince concert, which I thought was really cool. And it says he's coming on the Spectrum on November 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And the Inquirer, in conjunction with Power 99 FM, has 50 tickets 50 is a lot. 50 tickets to give away, courtesy of the Prince Concert Organization. Just fill out the random draw coupon below, and if you'd like to be a lucky winner of a pair of those tickets to one of the Prince concerts, you'll be happy to know your entry will go toward helping a worthy cause. A donation of 50 cents per entry, up to $5,000, will be given to the St. Christopher's Hospital for Children Building and Relocation Fund. Ticket winners will be personally notified and their names announced in the Enquirer on Wednesday, November 21st. The deadline for entries is noon Tuesday, November 20th. So the reason why it's important to read this is you can see that Prince's philanthropy is really growing, particularly during the Purple Rain tour. And if you see this next ad, which was from the Philly Daily News, and let me find it here. You can see 1 can of food plus 1 entry blank can win you a pair of free tickets to a Prince concert. Again, the Prince Concert Organization has donated 50 pair of tickets to the Daily News Feed the Needy effort, and it's goes on and on and on.
That's a trip. This is 1984.
Yes.
Imagine, damn, like we was doing that back then. It's got worse now.
Yep.
Yep. So again, I just think it's so important to see how he was, giving back. Okay, so Michael Dean, if you don't mind reading, it's very short, on page 453, Thursday, November 22nd, 1984.
Thursday. Okay. Venue, the Spectrum, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Capacity 18,639, sold out. During the sound check for this concert, Prince spent some time teaching the band how he wanted to add a spoken section in which he discussed sexual temptation. The spoken parts of this were eventually included in Temptation, a track he would record in December. The spoken section would be performed during this concert before Let's Pretend We're Married.
Now, I have to give a massive thank you to D68A because they have that sound check on their YouTube channel. So it's also in the accompanying playlist that you can find on my YouTube channel at the bottom of the page. And this is a really interesting, like, Prince is in rare form in this rehearsal sound check. And a couple of things. One, he performs the Dance Electric. So this is this sound check is a little different from other sound checks in that they're still trying to get some of the songs down the way that he wants them. And he's very directing. I'll say it that way. And also I really love the vocals that he does for Temptation. It was just, I listened to this the entire morning, like twice on repeat. It was fascinating. So this is a very fascinating sound check that I highly recommend all of you listen to. And awesome, Chuck. So Chuck says their first concert was 11/24/84 at the Spectrum. Amazing. So we are looking for people to come on to talk about their experiences. So if you want to come on, just let us know. And this is a ticket from November 22nd, 1984 at the Spectrum. And I love the Spectrum tickets because it has like those 4 color blocks, because like the color spectrum. I'm a designer by trade, so I love that attention to detail. Now comparing the set list from the Landover show on the 20th to the first Philly show on November 22nd. Remember, he put Father's Song in, but then he took it back out again. So he's trying to figure out, should I keep using Father's Song? And I'm going to read a little bit from this article, which is called Prince Revolutionizes Art of Live Excitement with Philly Concert. And I'm going to read a couple paragraphs here. After this exhilarating beginning, the concert slowed to practically a halt as Prince sat at his piano, mumbling most of the time inaudible pieces of Take Me With You and How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore. Then he began talking about God, which started to get the Spectrum crowd slightly restless. Finally, his band returned to sing God, only been released to the gospel stations. And then the second paragraph I want to read. Overall, Prince looked like he was having fun. He joked and teased the audience. His dancing, especially on Baby I'm a Star, could put Michael Jackson to shame. The lighting for the show was exciting. Now, I wanted to read this for a couple reasons. Another article we just read really give props to the lighting, and we all should know that the lighting is Roy. Roy did the lighting, and he's getting a lot of props for that. And then the other thing,
question.
Yeah.
Was Roy doing the lighting for the Controversy tour?
I think he did. Yeah, I think so. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
because I always wondered doing the breakdown of Head right before he starts doing the guitar part and everything. I always sound like he would say Roy and then Brenda. Like if you ever listen to the Head, when it breaks down, he's getting ready to do whatever, he does different things on the guitar, but it always sounds like he says Roy, like Roy, Brenda, and maybe the next time you guys are listening to the Controversy, any show from the Controversy tour, listen to, they go through the whole song Head, and he's getting ready to do the guitar part. It always sounds like me, like he's saying Roy, Brenda, and I know you learn later that Roy's married to Brenda, of course, but I thought, is that a lighting cue by him saying Roy? But then he would say Brenda, and so I was like, what? If
he might also be saying Bennett though. Like
Bennett. Okay, so he may be saying Roy Bennett. Okay, I need to go listen to that then. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Okay, good. That was it. I just always wondered if anybody else had heard that.
Thank you so much, Tracy. The other thing, the reason why I wanted to read a little bit from this article is that it's rare to have someone say that Prince is a better dancer than Michael Jackson. That was another thing. So I thought it was nice to see that. And this was from Colin Costello. And I love my alliterative names because I have one. And then the other thing is kind of going back to our guest today, J.D. Washington, and also my own experience with the Purple Rain tour is like during the God part, like for me, the concert really slows down. And this particular writer also speaks to that.
Still nobody mentioning Yankee Doodle Dandy though. Everybody's mentioning God, but ain't nobody got a problem with Yankee Doodle Dandy. Just saying. All right, let's move on.
I understand. I got you. All right. Maybe one day. Okay.
Oh, one other thing.
Yeah.
They keep saying I Would Die For You video release, but didn't they release the whole 17-minute thing? Wasn't it the whole I Would Die For You, Baby I'm a Star? Like, wasn't the whole 17-piece thing released at the same time? Because I'm trying to remember when on BET, I remember seeing the whole thing for whatever reason on BET, but I'm trying to remember, was it first just I Would Die For You and then later they released the whole thing? But for some reason, I remember seeing the whole 17-minute thing at one time. And I was flipping through to see if they mentioned adding it or extending it. So do you guys remember if it was released all the same time?
That's kind of fuzzy for me because I keep thinking of from
yes.
that Grammy show or something he performed the song. But I don't know. Maybe you said your husband said he did.
Yeah, and then Ronald is seconding that it was both MTV.
Okay, cool.
Yep. All right, and Cynic 22 had also posted this, but just so you see it, C Liegh, that Roy started on the Dirty Mind tour.
So that may be Roy he's queuing in. Okay, thanks, y'all.
Yep, and Big Sexy's thirding that. Saw it on MTV.
Okay,
so,
cool.
I didn't remember that, C Liegh, so I'm glad that you actually brought that up. That they, yeah, okay. Everybody remember. I have the worst memory of all, so thank you for this. Thank you so much, Mira. Okay, next up is from the Philadelphia Daily News. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I do want to read a little bit of this one. The name of this is For Fans, The Flush of Flesh by Gene Seymour. And the byline for the picture is His Royal Badness gives a sovereign scowl at the Spectrum last night that would Wilt the Queen Mum. I don't know what they mean. And so Cam just told me, C Liegh, that they would play that on MTV at the top of every hour, like the whole 17 minutes on back in the day.
I was thinking that they was all together. Appreciate everybody.
Yep. All right, here we go. Out of nowhere, some young women started parading up and out of the Spectrum Arena in their 90s. One could do little under the circumstances, but hoped they wore heavy clothing before they came in. So much for the unexpected. What wasn't surprising was that some of the 19,000 heavy coats that were seen entering the arena last night were, yes, purple, along with many more of the shoes and socks and shirts and skirts and ties. They looked really nice with the illuminated fake purple roses somebody was selling outside in the cold for $2 a piece. The object of this display wasn't heard from until 10 p.m. sharp, heard in blackness pierced only by lighters strewn throughout an audience quivering with anticipation. Hello, Philadelphia, the voice said in measured beats, a pause. Happy Thanksgiving, another pause. My name is Prince, another pause, and I've come to play with you. Again, another shout out to D68A because this is also in the playlist as well, so the actual show. So you get the sound check and the actual show. Okay. This is the second part, and I'm not going to read all of it, just some of this. So what I wanted to read was, this is from Crystal Finley, 16 of West Oak Lane, 12. I saw it 12 times, meaning the movie. Oh, okay, 6, but I know all the lines. And then Nina Brown, 18 of Mount Airy, says, I saw it 5 times before I bought the tape. Now I can play it anytime I want. So that goes back to what Michael was saying about, being able to watch it over and over again while the tour was going on. I think that was really key on the marketing department from Warner Brothers to have that happen, to build up the anticipation, because it's not like we have it today with YouTube and stuff. So, okay, next one to read, but what both concerts yielded was the same healthy mix of races, classes, cultures. There weren't as many families with small children, given Prince's propensity of risque demonstrativeness. Michael, declared Finley, doesn't give us enough sex. And what they mean by Michael is Michael Jackson. What both superstars also set off is a devotion that, for instance, made Karen Lamonso and Terry Place, both 16, spend their entire Thanksgiving on the road without their holiday dinner. We don't care, Terry said. This is our holiday dinner for a lifetime. Really? Why? That's the writer. He tells the truth, she said. Whatever he does up there is what he chooses to be. Okay. Then I wanted to read. Do I want to read this? Yeah, okay. So this is part of a music review that's continued from, no, it's on the same page. So many by Jonathan Takif. Gonna grind out who's naughty and nice. Okay. Many of today.
Really went deep on that title, didn't he?
If I was Prince, I'd be like, let me have to use it.
Yes, I love some of the titles of these articles. Okay. Many of today's fans had never even heard of Prince a couple of years ago when he was stooping to almost anything to get attention with his Dirty Mind and Controversy records and tours. And frankly, I suspect it's not so much the lyric content, but the enticing mixed bag sound of his sweet falsetto soul voice and fiery psychedelic guitar and bouncy robotic synthesizers that's drawing in most of his new fans. So yes, Prince has toned down a mite now that the whole world is watching. He's given up wearing his pervert's raincoat and
Dang.
and gender-bending zebra bikini briefs, now favoring the Edwardian dandy look consistently through the show. While his ruffled shirt still comes off a lot, Prince doesn't remove his pants even once, not even when he hops into the tub. I've got some quibbles with the pacing of Prince's concert, especially the too lengthy group of slow songs he does solo at the piano mid-show. And like the Jacksons, this past summer, Prince takes so much time changing his clothes before and between the encores that the audience simply stops applauding in an embarrassing situation. The sound mixing left something to be desired last night, overemphasizing the drum machine at the expense of the 5 live Revolution band members. Other elements of the stage production were superb. The elevators lifting Prince high into the air or making him disappear provide spectacular effects, as does the computerized lighting shafts that rain down on Prince through thick clouds of artificial fog. Again, another nod to Roy. The performer's stylish moves, his frenetic freeform dancing, James Brown-style mock heart attacks, and daring do spins. I'm not into dance. I don't know what that is. On small platforms high above the main stage, make Prince as much fun to watch as to hear.
That's a good review, and it just goes back to things we've said before. But I know that we've seen over time how these reviews mean. I'm not going to say so much, but they definitely mean something to Prince. To read these, and so it's just always interesting to see like what the response to that tour was, and then what it led him to do next. Like, okay, and then he goes full on James Brown. It just seems it's just interesting. Like he doubles into the maybe I don't know if that part where everybody seems to complain about the slowness in the middle, but maybe he just found a better way to do that on his other shows. Like,
Yeah.
I think of the Electric Man and stuff like that. It's the same kind of vibe, but it's just done better. Like it's just sexier, and the vibe is different with the band, but he's still leaning into that sexy man, and I'm on the ground grinding it out like this. So it's just interesting to hear how people perceived it and where it went. Like, okay, well, cool.
But I guess my question is, they acting like he wasn't at the piano for How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore,
right?
With 1999 tour. So it's one of those where on the one hand you're complaining that, and I get if you're just saying he's not doing it as well or whatever, that's one thing. But a lot of these reviews is kind of like he didn't do it at all. Like this is like you come there not expect. So for me, it's like, don't give me the I've seen him before. And act like, I think I would appreciate it more if they said his use of the piano here is not as good as it was for 1999.
Yeah.
I would take it better there. But these are kind of like, you're not even, because the piano set never ended. Like, right. You see what I'm saying? If you look through the live shows, the piano set never ended. And then eventually the piano set became the acoustic guitar set.
True.
So it's like so this was always a part of what he did once he started doing. I'll shut up.
But I don't think they're responding to the piano part, even though they say it's a piano part. It is. I know, because I agree with them. It's the talking part, because the talking back and forth to God, which precedes or intertwines the piano part. Okay. I don't think that they're actually talking about when he performs the songs. Okay. He's talking about, I call it the God talk, or whenever, when he's literally talking to God. For me, it slows the concert down to a screeching halt. And you have to understand, me as a 13-year-old, when I saw this, I was like, what? It's just you're not moving, you're not, so, and it just, I don't know. It went on a long time.
Let me ask you this then. Did you have the same, did you have the same, because for me, have seeing it and doing, so after How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore, and Prince gets up and does the Is Your Man Fine, right? But, does he have a butt like mine? But if you look at the 1999 tour, those were some kind of long talking points. He said, well, I'm going to go stand over here till you make up your mind. And then if from show to show in the 1999 tour, he would talk, my new woman is a nurse, and she gave this body a full examination. So,
but he wasn't talking about God, though.
See, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering is if it's the talking about God part or is the talking part, period. That's what I'm trying to get to. Was it it's okay if you're talking about you got this fine ass and I got a new woman and that take that raggedy Chevrolet and go on. But if you're talking about God, it's hitting a bit different. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, I can only speak for myself, and it's really important to understand that everyone has their own opinions. And I'm sure, like Panic Survivor said, you like that part, you like the talking part. I'm sure a lot of people love the talking part. I'm not saying anything negative towards your experience. That was your experience. I'm just talking about my experience, and especially as a 13-year-old, when I didn't even like Temptation as a 14-year-old. I was like, what is this Temptation song on a Prince album? Because it was so slow. It was like a slow dirge for me as a 13 or 14-year-old. Okay, D'Angelo as an adult. When I want to see Prince live, I do not. The only time I pull out Purple Rain is to see Irresistible Beat and Possess. That's the only. I put in my thing and I go there and I watch those two. I usually watch it on repeat a gazillion times. I never watch it all the way through. I never put on the 1999 show. I never want to see the 1999 tour. The tour that I go to is Sign of the Times, Love Sexy, and now obviously like the Glam Slam show. Mm-hmm. And when you think of and thinking about that question you just asked about 1999, and I do need to watch the 1999 show again, it may be that I don't go to that tour because of all of like the talking and things. Because the one thing when it comes to like Love Sexy, there's a couple of, what I call, talking Prince, but it's not as long as like the God monologue, just in terms of sheer minutes, and thing of that nature. So I'm curious, we did read some of the reviews from the 1999 tour, and I would have to go back, but I don't remember. The thing about these reviews for the Purple Rain tour is that, obviously it's the beginning of the tour, right? But so far they're very repetitive in what they're focusing on, and being critical about. So it would be interesting to see how the reviews change over the course of the tour. But I don't remember like any lulls being identified in the 1999 concert reviews that we read, because we read quite a few of them.
Right. And that's right. And see, that's the point I'm making is if the talking wasn't considered a lull for the 1999 shows, why is it? I'm talking specifically about the critics, right? Not that if you're going to tell me that the talking was a lull for you in the Purple Rain show, I would love to see if that particular critic reviewed the 1999 show and also said, and then that way I could get it. I'm like, that's your aesthetic. This critic is saying, cut out all that damn talking, right? That's but like you said, I don't remember a lot of reviews from critics saying all that damn talking around the piano, love the show, the way they're really hyper focusing on it. Because again, as much as I joke about Yankee Doodle Dandy, I get that it can be a lull, right? I still don't understand the Yankee Doodle Dandy thing, but so my focus is just so much on how can the critics call that point out in the Purple Rain show if they didn't call it out in the 1999 show. That's the question I'm raising, not about everybody's different aesthetic of what we like in the Prince thing. If that makes, I'll shut up. Go ahead, brother Dean.
I was going to say that too. Listening to it now, it almost sounds like some of these critics are also coming from the standpoint of like, I was on Prince early and y'all's getting onto it now. So let me kind of tell y'all how it was different back then. To me, it almost reads, I can imagine if I was a younger fan, how it may be when I listen to podcasts about Prince, and like, there's a lot of people always that have been into it early. They can't help but compare it to, and as a person who doesn't have that experience, that's what it sounds like to me. It just kind of sounds like a little bit of them saying, well, he has to tone it down from what he used to do, And it's like, okay, I get that. So I get that. That makes a lot of sense why they're saying a lot of these things to me. But I think the talking parts or the slow down parts that people are mentioning, and somebody mentioned, I can imagine when you're going to a concert, your expectation is that this is a party, you're the experience, the energy is always up. And I think that from a superstar standpoint, it wasn't maybe not the norm for them to slow it down to that level and to step off script a little bit well, it obviously was part of the script, but to go into this sort of thing that I don't think was necessarily covered as much in his music to that level, where you saw it. And I think maybe what Prince is interesting is that he seems to be playing out this narrative during the show that's a little bit deeper than you may expect from listening to his records. Like, wow, he's having some sort of complication with his relationship with God. Like, what is that? Where did this come from? It's not really talking about that on Purple Rain. He's stopping the show to talk about, he's wrestling with something. So I just think it was him being a lot more probably theatrical than maybe expected of him at that point. But later on, I think you expect a little bit of that, and he makes that a part of his shows. And the narrative switches to that. So I think maybe he was just kind of going on his narrative a little earlier than we were ready for, possibly too.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay. I was going to read this next article, but
it's getting late now.
Yeah, I know. And if you have to leave, just leave. I only have like 4 more articles, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. And this one I'm actually going to skip. The one thing that I like about this is the byline says exudes some purple passion. And for this one, the final paragraph says, nonetheless, the show was established that as confused, self-absorbed, and weird as he is, Prince is no hype. His example, a Black artist operating in the mainstream of the white rock world on his own terms, is an important one. And I thought that was a really, really smart of, what's this person's, Ken Tucker from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And the name of the article is The Prince of Pop Rocks the Spectrum. So again, read it one more time. Prince is no hype. His example, a Black artist operating in the mainstream of the white rock world on his own terms, is an important one. All right, so I think this is the second to last review. This concert was more than a reproduction of a hit movie, and this is actually Ken Tucker again, the guy who just wrote the previous one. This is a different one. There was a long discursive section of the show in which the star sat at an electric piano and mumbled bits and pieces of songs such as How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore. He also chatted with a hand puppet and mused portentously about big issues like life, death, and God. It was scarily mediocre. But whenever the tempo was fast, Prince was a brilliant showman who did something he all too rarely accomplishes on record. He proved he has a sense of humor. From the perfect Elvis Presley dance moves he inserted into Delirious to the beautiful James Brown falsetto he invoked on Baby I'm a Star, Prince demonstrated his range with wicked wit. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to read this one is that at this time, people were not aware of Prince's humor. I mean, we all were or were about to through like the rehearsal tapes and things. So I think it's interesting that this particular critic was beginning to see that even, within the Purple Rain tour. And for Philly, which is Friday, November 23rd, 1984. I don't know why I had that in there. There's nothing to read. This is what the ticket looks like. It's a little different from what we normally have been seeing. So that's Friday's ticket. Here's a Saturday's ticket with the spectrum. You can tell because of the 4 colored blocks. And you can see that on the Saturday show that JD went to, there's like controversy, starts off with controversy. And again, JD said that was played behind the curtain. And then he puts in Dirty Mind, Do Me Baby, and I Want to Be Your Lover. And I wonder it makes sense why he would do that, because he's in Philly. You know, and I wondered why he didn't do that earlier, like on the November 22nd show. Do you like to put those hits in? Because, like, if you read the reviews, one of the complaints was he wasn't playing songs from his previous albums. All right. This is an important article, and this is the last one of the day, but I do want to read it. But if you have to leave, I totally understand. All right. Oh my God. Let's see. No, I don't have it. So here we go. Prince's Curious Merging of the Sensual and Sublime by Chris Nicholson. It was opening night for Prince at the Spectrum Thursday, the first of 3 sold-out concerts concluding tonight. As the lights dimmed, the cheers of an estimated 17,000 moved like waves of sound. One glimpse of Prince, and everyone jumped up, stood on their seats, and remained there for the better part of the show. White flowers were released from above as the rhythms of Let's Go Crazy began. Delirious 1999 and Little Red Corvette follow in an electrifying 4-song grouping, leaving the audience and Prince breathless. Although Prince has been recording since 1978, I'm going to skip that. No Black performer since Jimi Hendrix has had a comparable impact. The Minneapolis-born Prince, 26, who has not granted an interview in more than a year, remains an enigma. His lyrics and performances are an odd mix of the sensual and sublime. On stage, Prince was lurid and electric. His first of several costumes included a tight black suit, short fitted jacket with a sheer white ruffled shirt and skin-tight button-down the side pants gathered from knee to ankle. He was rarely still, gliding, shuffling, stomping, spinning, twisting, and breakdancing without missing a note. He sang in a voice richer in tone than his recordings, shifting into falsetto. He hit incredibly high notes while retaining control. The light show, like a fine-tuned instrument, added to Prince's mysterious aura with splashes of color, lots of purples, of course, and shadow, lots of smoke. The music was simple and tight, with crisp percussion and electronic rhythms. The only solos were those Prince did on the several guitars he played throughout the 2-hour show. Lace curtains were lowered above the stage, while guitarist Wendy sang a ballad free. Then Prince, wearing a purple-tailed coat, popped up in front of purple piano festooned with flowers. His ruffled shirt unbuttoned, he turned his back to the audience, revealing pants made of a lacy, see-through material. Prince talked to the audience as if he were a nightclub performer, establishing an intimate rapport. He used a hand puppet to symbolize his conscience. He coyly suggested, if you're good, I'll be good, but if you're bad, I'll be better. The audience went wild. He crooned a ballad, Take Me With You, then switched to the torrid sexuality of Let's Pretend We're Married. Prince suddenly pulled himself across the top of the piano and embraced it like a lover. He slid back down and played a classically inspired improvisation. Prince dedicated his next number to the Creator. If you believe, sing with us. If you don't, please listen. The lyrics paraphrase Genesis from the Bible, but as soon as he became contemplative, he bounced back to the sensual. Before you knew it, Prince was stripping to the waist and easing himself into the purple glow of a bathtub. The juxtaposition of the provocative and the profound is probably the most intriguing aspect of Prince. The tension it creates is curiously satisfying. Just when it seems all is lost to hedonism, hope and love come to the rescue. Prince, dressed in black and wearing a lace mask next, did bumps and grinds to Darling Nikki. He unbuttoned his pants, tore his waist chain off, and threw it into the audience. Moments later, he was just as comfortable preaching love and faith. By acknowledging the appeal of the apparent contradiction, in Computer Blues, it's supposed to be Computer Blue, but it's Blues, he said, I'm confused, echoed by the reply, don't be confused, there's only one Lord, Jesus. Prince is torn between two directions and wants the best of both worlds. As the last choruses of Purple Rain were played and sung, the feeling of brotherhood and love, which comes across the movie, seemed to be alive and well in the hearts of those singing and waving their outstretched arms to the music. Fans left the concert with a positive feeling, and that perhaps is what Prince is all about.
Wow. I never thought about it. It'd be so interesting if the movie Purple Rain reflected these types of ideas and how that would have been received.
I think that while the movie doesn't specifically reflect them, I think that the movie is a redemption movie. And it's a movie about growing from toxicity, right? Growing from, I don't have to be, just because I'm born into toxicity doesn't mean I can't overcome it. And
That's so interesting.
And I think that, so for me, living this in real time, the stuff that happens, even though this is the only Prince tour I didn't see in real time, the elevation of it to a religious motif made sense looking at what he had been building on since Controversy. So that these religious motifs, though more faintly and vaguely, had existed, and I would even argue since Dirty Mind, but definitely since Controversy. I think that there were either people who got it and saw it, and so the one thing about this review, this is a review written by somebody who isn't bothered by these things and are actually interested in these things, versus by the previous critics who are either not, maybe not, they don't have to be bothered by it, just not interested in it. Right. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of an album that I love that has too much effing talking to it. All right. I don't know how many people out there are familiar with a guy named Life. He's an R&B guitar player. Life. Huh?
Life Jennings?
Life Jennings. I love Life Jennings' first album. I deleted all the damn segues off it. I don't need you to tell me you just got out of damn jail between every song.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what I understand, though, here's what I understand. I understand those songs do not exist if Life don't go to jail. I understand that those songs are part of Life Jennings' narrative. So I want to be clear. It's not that I don't understand what Life is doing. I'm just not interested in it. Why? Because I was never that wasn't my lifestyle. Like, I didn't know gangbangers, I didn't know drug dealers, I didn't know people. So I'm just not that interested in it. And so, just like the guy talks slow, that slows that damn album down for me. Like, I cannot listen. So I just got but I would hope that as an objective intellect, I could write about the Life Jennings album and explain to you all why those segues are necessary, even if I don't like them. Does that make sense? And I think that a lot of times people will write negatively about stuff simply because they're not interested in it and try to make it like it doesn't fit. And so I think what this last article does is written by somebody who got it, who understood it, and it was for them, as opposed to the other reviewers who just wanted him to shut up and sing. I'll shut up.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess, a review could be, like you said, it could be a person's, how did they feel about what they saw, or it could be just literally just like, here's what happened, and sort of leaving my own sort of, I didn't care for certain things out of it to a degree. Here's what he did on stage type of deal. I think the tone kind of what you hear about in the stage show versus the movie, I guess Graffiti Bridge leans more into sort of the themes of what the stage show is about, and we know how that worked out. But it would be interesting because I think it is a redemption movie. I sometimes question, does he actually really show his redemption? But I guess it does to a degree. But yeah, it doesn't really lean into the spiritual stuff, which I think when I I don't remember the God talk when I saw the concert, but I certainly remember it from watching the home video. And I was just like, wow, what is he talking about? Like, I wouldn't expect him to go there. And I didn't know the Controversy album at the time.
Okay.
So it was a shock to me. I was just like, wow, this guy is actually, so I actually really like that because I was just like, wow, he talks like, he's talking about something deeper than I even anticipated. And I wasn't that much into it.
Right.
In terms of, I just knew that's what my grandma and them, he's kind of delving into what they were talking, you know what I mean? When I had to go to church and stuff. So I just thought it was fascinating for somebody who I saw on a Michael Jackson level was even speaking about something like that, because normally they don't. Like, they just stick with the script, So it's just interesting.
So I wanted to end, I mean, we have one more article, but it's very, very short. It's just like 2 sentences. But I wanted to end with a positive review. I thought this was very well written. It's like one of my favorite reviews that I've ever read about Purple Rain, or 1999 for that matter, because it's so descriptive. But so this Chris Nicholson has a way with words, because if you hadn't seen the show, you could actually almost visualize it in your head the way that he actually described it. And to speak to everything that we've just been talking about, this is actually from a student paper called The Quad from Westchester UPenn, and I'm only going to read one sentence. And in this review by Valerie DiOrio, it says, Prince reminded everyone that we are only on the earth for a short time, and we should love God and each other. And that's from a student paper. So I thought that was pretty brilliant. And I just love this photo from one of the Spectrum shows. This is from a newspaper article from 2009. And they were actually talking about the Spectrum versus the Wachovia Center. But I just loved this shot of Prince. I thought it was great.
Hold that photo there for a minute. This is just really random, and I will admit, even stupid. But during this era, whenever I would see Prince's clothing and see the paisley and see all that, I would think that's the same fabric on my grandmama couch. And somehow I loved it. Like, it made me like my grandmama's couch even more. Of course, that lets you know how old my grandmama's couch was. And I also let you know that back in the day, my grandmama was fly. My grandmother's interior was kind of fly. But I just end like 14, 15, I would go, hey, his suit got the same pattern as my grandmama's couch. And I would go sit on that damn couch and listen to my Prince records, feeling the fabric and the paisley on that couch. Ain't got nothing to do with the damn thing. But I'm just, anyway, so that picture, man, because you can kind of see it, and that really, like, I can see my grandmother's couch in the pants. All right, I'll sit up.
Oh, thank you for that, C Liegh. Oh my God, I love that.
Now, how old is Prince at this point? Is he like
26?
26.
Yeah, 26.
It's young. Like, he's a young guy.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you always got to keep that in context. Like, this is a 26-year-old that is, with everything that he done experienced in life so far, this is the message that he's putting out. So it's fascinating to me. It's like, wow.
Right.
All right. So far in 1984, there's been 20 live shows, 16 of them with the Purple Rain tour. And music break really quickly. Andre 3000 has released 3 videos yesterday. Tunnels of Egypt, which is an outtake from New Blue Sun. Moving Day, which is like a little mini documentary. And then also Day Moving, which is it backwards. So that's one thing. And it's in the accompanying playlist. You know, I love me. Corey Henry's coming to Blue Note in New York, December. Purple World. The Black Album Party happened yesterday. And Eric Rogers of the Paisley 5 and Dime posted some amazing photos that I wanted to share because I obviously didn't go. And these are the shirts they were selling. This is what they said on the top. And this is what they showed in the MPG Music Club. And this is like the Black album that they had. So thanks to Eric Rogers for making us, for those of us who couldn't get there, at least get to see what it was like. And also they were playing a little bit of a controversy rehearsal that if you want to see the actual video, you can go to Paisley 5 and Dime and see it because Eric has posted a couple of videos. So I just want to give thanks to Eric Rogers for giving us a little bit of that. And then obviously we still want to continue to have Jeremiah in our hearts, particularly around Thanksgiving, when it can be really hard when you're going through something. So definitely, you know, send some words of love and encouragement to Jeremiah when you can. And in the accompanying playlist on my YouTube channel, all the way at the bottom, I highly recommend that you listen to the sound check from 11:22, and then you can also hear the show from 11:22. Thanks to D68A for both of those videos and for all that they do on their channel. And then you can also watch the I Would Die For You live video in the channel, and you can see Andre's videos there. And the next week we will be reading pages 454 to 456 for the next week in 1984. And that's it. So
One last thing.
Sure.
This is a kind of Prince, well, it's a Prince related thing. So our friend and major Prince scholar, Scott Woods, has a new collection of poetry out.
Oh.
So if you love Scott Woods, if you love the mind of Scott Woods, if Scott Woods has been one of your favorite presenters at all of the symposiums that Prof. Duff put on, the title of the collection is Black Knight is Falling by Scott Woods. I've just kind of been, I was in New Orleans at the Words and Music Festival for the last 2 days doing a presentation. So when I got home, this was waiting on me, and I've only kind of thumbed through it. If you love Scott Woods, if you love his mind, you will love this collection of poetry. That's it. I just wanted to shout out our good brother and what he's doing. So that's it.
Salute Scott Woods.
Yes, we love Scott.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see y'all talking about the Kendrick. Yeah, there's some bomb albums that done dropped these last couple days. The Kendrick album, dope. Ice Cube album, fire. I haven't listened to it yet, but the Body Count Ice-T just came out as well. So man, a lot of some dope shit out there, man. Music still lives.
Music still lives. So take us on home, Michael Dean.
Well, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get up out of here. We wish you a very happy weekend. Thank you, C Liegh. Happy birthday. One more time in the chat, y'all. Put the happy birthdays in the chat for D'Angela. Wow. Another year. I know you're about to do it up today. Did you tell us what you're doing today? What are you going to do after this?
Oh, I'm going to go to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens to see this light exhibition that they have. I love light. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Nice, nice. Well, salute to you. Happy birthday. We love you. Ladies and gentlemen, work it like a job. We'll see you next time.
Peace.